What's up, everyone? It's King Sigma going live on this nice July 31st, 2019 afternoon. I hope everyone is having a great hump day and having a positive and profitable week as well. I would like to thank you all for joining me and giving me a little bit of your time. Today, we'll be having a discussion about the Brian Banks movie and how it relates to toxic feminine outcomes in real time. I have provided a link to the trailer for the movie that will be released on August 9th by Bleecker Street. One of the main actors that I saw in there will be Morgan Freeman. And I mean, Morgan Freeman, he usually delivers good movies. And this is one of those movies that so relates to the Black male experience and some of the consequences of misandry in the United States. And I think that as more and more of these stories hit the headlines, more and more people will begin to reject this fourth to fifth wave feminism that has overtaken America over the last decade or so. And I've already made a prediction that for the most part, the social justice warrior, politically correct culture has already popped as we started 2019 and it's really ramped up. You can really see this playing out in politics in the way that male politicians that have guts and fortitude are no longer cucking themselves for the benefit of groups that hate men. I mean, the truth is there's a strong toxic femininity and also just a general misandry in the United States and throughout the West. And it just kind of peaked. And you kind of see that with what's going on with Donald Trump and his war with identity politics and the reaction for those that use identity politics as a weapon and as a shield for their own selfish gain. And that's unfortunate because there's real issues in America related to things like racism, classism, sexism, injustices or whatnot. But what happens is that you have certain forces that use these things to benefit themselves. And that relates directly to someone like a Brian Banks who, Brian Banks was convicted out there in California. And we know how strong the social justice warrior energy and the radical feminist energy is out there. But I wanted to kind of like lead off this discussion with some misandry that was in the news this week. A case that came to me was the case of Gillette, which falls under the umbrella of a Procter and Gamble. In these male spaces on YouTube and throughout social media, we've been aware of what was going on with Gillette and their toxic masculinity campaign that started in January. There was a popular ad for the wrong reasons. It was popular because of the backlash. I mean, I think YouTube and Gillette pulled the video for the ad because it had gotten so many down votes. I think it was like the down votes was like 10% of the people liked it and 90% hated it. And it was just so much vitriol coming from men who were just fed up. I knew for a while that it was going to get to the point where men were just going to be like, we have nothing to lose anymore, because when you start taking people's like livelihoods away from them, you start to intrude on their privacy. You start to intrude on their pleasure as well. Many men are going to start to fight back because there's no longer any flight option. There's nowhere to run to, right? So there's nowhere to run to. And I saw how many people said, I'm not going to buy these Gillette razors. I'm going to go get, Dollar Club razors or other alternative options, because there's plenty of options out there. And so the digital response from men across the world to that misandry that Gillette put out in that ad, it was very loud. And I mean, many of the, even, usually when it comes to mainstream, they try to downplay these type of things, but the backlash was so strong that even the mainstream had to take up those articles to try to like soften the blow, thinking that it was not going to be as badly as it was in the terms of an economic boycott. As a consumer, You have to understand you have so much power where you put your dollar or where you don't put your dollar. 70% of this economy in America in particular is based on consumption. So anything that would become an obstacle to consumption is going to be a problem for corporations and even governments as well, because we know that our government has mostly become nothing but a sellout corporation for the interest of corporations, right? So Gillette, they had an $8 billion loss because of men going on strike of their products. I mean, you know, we throw numbers around all the time, but I'm going to go through this article real quick. So the article in the New York Post yesterday said that non-shavers rivals bleeding Gillette as Procter & Gamble takes $8 billion right now. Now, you know how the mainstream media will try to flip it. They'll be like, oh, well, you know, people aren't shaving. That's the reason. No, that's not the reason why. They weren't complaining about it in 2018, 2017, and 2016, but all of a sudden now you're like, oh, well, no one's shaving anymore. That's not the case. The truth is that men boycotted Gillette because of the toxic masculinity narrative that they were trying to promote, because that all happened around the time when the American Psychological Association came out with their whole definition of toxic masculinity. And then they came up with this ad almost like, what, less than 30 days later. So it was all connected to these corporations attempting to shame men for being men and to make men believe that somehow masculinity is a bad thing and femininity is a good thing, even though there's no proof that femininity has positive outcomes for a civilization. But there are definitely thousands of years of evidence that patriarchy is good for men, women, and children, because it makes men protectors, nurturers, and innovators and creators. And also, if they're guided by ideas like ethics, morals, and justice, then men will tend to do the right thing. So this whole toxic masculinity narrative that has been pushed over the last 10 years, the pushback is now coming. That's one of the reasons why so many people support someone like Donald Trump, because he stands on the fact that he's a man and he's not going to let them put a skirt on him, and he's not going to let social justice warriors censor him, whatever your opinions of him happen to be. But I know one thing: I'm not for censorship, and I'm not for gender bias against men. And that's what we have. So Gillette and Procter & Gamble, I mean, they took a big loss, $8 billion. We throw numbers like that around and people don't even blink, but think about it. 8 billion, how many jobs does that represent, right? How many people are going to get laid off from Gillette because of the error of maybe the chief marketing of operations, right? So typically, you know, you have your sales department and marketing, and that's supposed to bring in, you know, the profits. The CEO is always the last one to go. You know what I'm saying? The CEO, then it's like the CFO and the chief marketing officer and the COO. In those, when it comes to the C-suite, the first person to usually go is the chief marketing officer, because they're the easiest to blame. Because you know, the CEO, he's going to be the last one to go, and the CFO is more protected because they control the money. And then you have the operating officer, which typically they're not involved in the marketing stuff as much. So when you do a marketing campaign like what they did in January 2019, attacking the male consumer base of their product, which was just completely dumb, well, then they're going to be the ones to get their head chopped off when the numbers come in for the quarter. So what we have is, now that we have 2 quarters of information for Gillette, we come to find out that they had an $8 billion loss. So I bet you that CMO is going to be out of there. Whatever firms they hire to come out with this dumb, counterintuitive advertising that totally insulted their consumer base, their heads are going to roll. And I think you're seeing this in politics as well, that there's a lot of policies coming out now that are going against this radical feminism. And when I get deeper into the Brian Banks case, I'm going to talk about a law. Of course, everyone knows about the heartbeat bills that are being passed by a lot of the Republican-led states. That's spreading very fast. So we know that that case of Roe v. Wade is going to, you know, the heartbeat bill is created to undermine and abolish Roe v. Wade next year. So we already know that the Roe v. Wade case is going to be on the Supreme Court docket next year sometime. So that's coming, and it's an election year, so that's going to be huge, that case right there. So you have a lot of these things coming up, and I've been studying some of these laws that are fighting back against a lot of the misandry in America. So we're going to get to more of that with Brian Banks. So I just wanted to kind of like, give some news on some misandry that's kind of made the news recently. And Gillette was a case that many black men and many men in general were following, just because of the impact that it, when you put advertisement out here in America, people are going to like take it as facts. You know what I'm saying? They're going to take it as facts, unfortunately, but that's just the kind of climate that we live in now. We live in a climate where people have contracted out their thinking. They're walking around like zombies. And if you put it on television or social media, not so much television anymore, but more so social media, people will tend to like just take the word of whatever individual, group, or entity is making a statement instead of doing their research. It's fine to listen to information, but my thought is that don't take anything at face value. Always do your research and do a little bit more research before you're going to have a discussion on anything. So that's just something that I really do believe in. So I'm going to move on to this Brian Banks movie that's coming out. So I did post a link to the trailer of the Brian Banks movie, and I recommend that everyone go see that. Go ahead and take a moment to watch the trailer as I give you guys information about who Brian Banks was and how that relates to a lot of the history of black men in America. So I just want to take a minute to, shout out the viewers, shout out the chat. I'm very glad, that you guys are joining me for this conversation. What I want to do, since this is going to be the last hangout with Google Hangouts, I'm going to talk about the Brian Banks case, Lisa Borders of Time Out, and how it relates to Emmett Till. And then I'm going to, invite whoever wants to come on for an hour just to chop it up on this topic, because it's very timely. This Brian Banks movie, it's very timely as we enter this election year and we figure out ways to deal with a lot of the misandry out there. So when it comes to, talking about things like due process, because that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about the Brian Banks case and how he was accused of sodomy, rape, and kidnapping back in, I believe it was 2003. He was accused of sodomy and kidnapping and rape when he was in his the summer before his senior year of high school. And Brian Banks was a parade All-American at Long Beach Polytechnic. They produce a lot of NFL players. They produce, I think that almost all the starters for their team every year goes D1. All the starters on both sides, I believe. That's tremendous for the high school level. And he got himself caught up in something that turned his life around for the worse. And eventually he was exonerated. But I'll get into that a little bit later because the case is just so deep and interesting. But I just kind of wanted to just talk a little bit about due process and how important it is for the everyday black man to be up on his constitutional rights and to understand that there are 9 areas of human activity outside of just sex. Too often, we black men are labeled as just sex fiends and sex fetish and even sexual predators. And this ends up being used against us because that becomes like the symbol of the black man, something deviant. See, that's what the greater society and the black misandrists and others want to do. They want to make the symbol of black manhood sexual deviance. And that's why the origin of the believe all women goes back to Jim Crow and the black codes of the antebellum era. This is nothing new, right? So this whole campaign that the feminists of America are pushing and their male lackeys, because see, that's what I'm starting to understand as I see the pushback against radical feminism, is that it's a bi gender campaign. So these radical feminists cannot do what they do without the help of male flunkies and male simps that empower them. And on the flip side, to push back against this misandry, we're going to have to appeal to the interests of women. And what do I mean? Well, I'm going to talk about that more when I talk about Lisa Borders. See, what I'm finding out as I look at how men are being accused of things they didn't do on college campuses, in the workplace, often you're seeing the first pushback now coming from mothers, right? Mothers and wives. That situation with the guy over at Fox and his Asian wife, she was one of the, when that Me Too thing came out, she was one of the loudest voices in the room. Me too, me too. But when her husband got accused of all of those crimes, I think his name is like Les Moonves. I forgot the name of the woman. But I know that when Charlie Rose, he got accused as well. He has an Asian wife who is a reporter. They all circled the wagon for their husband. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So when it's someone else's husband or someone else's son, these women are all about Me Too, convict, accuse, and destroy. But when it ends up being their son or their husband or their brother, now their reason kicks in. So what I'm learning is that with these women, you can't appeal to strictly reason with the females in general. You have to appeal to their feelings, their self-interest, then their reason as well. But it takes a combination, unfortunately. So what we see is that on these college campuses, a lot of the mothers of the men being accused are suing universities, right? So they're suing a lot of the colleges, and these colleges are getting taken to the cleaners. And that relates to Brian Banks, because in his case, the Long Beach Unified School System actually paid out to his accuser, which 10 years later, they come to find out that she lied about the whole thing. You can look her up. Her name is Netta Gibson. So he was a rising senior in his senior high school year, and she was going into her junior year of high school out there in Long Beach when she falsely accused him, and he ended up being convicted. But eventually, the Long Beach Unified School District ended up doing a settlement with her and her mother for $1.5 million. So I'm going to bring up her picture up, and we're going to talk about due process. So let me bring her picture up for you all to see who Netta Gibson is, this piece of shit, and her mother. I mean, these are people that represent pure evil, and why it's so important that we men stand on principles of due process. You can never, ever for a minute fall for the scam of believe all women. You believe no woman or no man when it comes to crimes. You are innocent until proven guilty. That must be the fundamental default that all U.S. citizens fall back to. A person is innocent until proven guilty. So this whole idea of believe all women is masterful propaganda. And then when something like the Brian Banks things happens, no one has anything to say. So let's take a look at Netta Gibson in her post-war years. So she would be about 32 years old now. And she's free as a bird right now as well. So hopefully you all can see, but here is a screenshot of Mr. Brian Banks, the former Parade All-American football player, who he is 34 years old now, and he was under the prison court system's control for a total, I believe, 11 years. So he did 6 years in prison and 5 years under like house arrest of some form before he finally was exonerated in 2012. But here's a picture of his accuser at her current age. So this is them now. But when it happened, She was about 16 and he was around 17 or 18. But this is her. So this is Miss Juanetta Gibson and Brian Banks, who the movie is based on. True story. And I mean, this just goes to show you, man, it's not even a race thing. Because a lot of people, they get so caught up in the racial aspect that they forget this ain't even a race thing, man. Race, this is a misandry thing. So you can get got by any woman in America. And I want to really let people know that, you know, like, don't ever think that just because a woman is black or white or Asian or mixed, whatever she happens to be, that's some kind of safety from black manhood in America. When you walk out the door, you are a black man. Now, you might be a different type of black man. You might be a rich black man, a short black man, a fat black man, a select black man, a non-select black man, whatever. But that's just the reality in America, that women get the benefit of the doubt and men get no benefits and all the cost of everything society throws at him and any mistakes he might make. Even if he actually made a legitimate mistake himself, you're going to always, unless you just happen to be very rich and privileged, you're going to pay the price as a man to a higher degree than women are treated in society. Now, as a black man, that's going to be double, triple, or 10 times worse, possibly. But as a man, you're going to rarely get the benefit of the doubt. And you would have thought that in the case of Brian Banks, I mean, no criminal record, parade All-American, that he would have gotten even the benefit of the doubt. And that was what his public defender told him. See, what people don't understand about the Brian Banks case, he didn't go to trial. He took a plea bargain, right? And people be like, man, why would he take a plea bargain? He was a 17-year-old kid, and based on what I've read, he was in a single mother household, typical, right? We're at the point of 8 out of 10 black children are being raised by single mothers. So, you know, all the information I could find, he was raised by a single mother. Nothing said anything about his father. I looked up a dozen articles. Everything talked about him and his mother, nothing about his father. So I'm assuming the father was not around until someone provides me with more information. So he ends up taking this plea deal. And for those that are familiar with the way that the American court systems work, I don't even use the term criminal justice system. The lawyers and the judges use that, and the politicians, because they're protecting their own self-interest. But I just call it the court system, because that's really what it is. But we know that 97% of all federal convictions come from pleas, not trials, and that 94 to 95% of convictions at the state level come from plea bargains and not trials, which would seem to be in direct contradiction of the U.S. Constitution and the Sixth Amendment, trial by jury. But because of the way that the American courts are set up, which is, to me, I feel that the American court system is more of a bank than about justice, than about administering justice. So to me, it's more about politicians creating more and more layers of laws, which leads to more and more ways of you violating a law. You see what I'm saying? See, you have to understand that America, for a first world, quote unquote, country, it incarcerates more people than Russia and China, I believe, even put together. So that's something to think about. America is supposed to be so civilized and so just and so orderly, but it incarcerates more of its citizens than any other civilized nation in the world. And then you look into it and you follow the money, you find out, because it's very profitable for politicians, lawyers, judges, and corporations or whatnot, to keep the incarceration rates very high. It's a very sick system that we have in America. And Brian Banks ended up being a victim of that sick system. So when you throw in the Jim Crow era kind of laws, because remember, the original believe all women was the motto of the segregationists and the anti-black male forces in America. So right now, they're all of a sudden, they're making as if this believe all women thing is a new idea in 2018 with the metoo movement. No, it's not. Believe all women used to just mean believe all white women. So all they did was subtract white women from the motto and put believe all women now. So now any woman can accuse you black, as in this case, him being accused by an American black woman and her mother. So the only thing they did in 2018 with the Me Too movement was drop believe all white women, which was the code under the Jim Crow and the antebellum black codes. So it used to be believe all white women because they didn't recognize the rights of black women at that time like that. So now it's believe all women. So any woman at any time can accuse you of anything. And then there's really no punishment from the courts and from the states. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as well, about how someone like a Juanita Gibson can be out here free as a damn bird right now in the state of California. She's free, even though she violated all of their laws: false reporting of a crime, perjury before the law. And luckily, some of the pro-masculine politicians are actually bringing bills to make it a serious felony for someone to do false rape accusations. Now, they weren't doing this in the interest of us men initially, right? But what happened is that an unintended consequence of the heartbeat bill was that because the only way that some of those states will allow abortion is going to be if you are raped, they had to add this addenda of making the false accusations a serious felony, because of course, if you pass a heartbeat bill and you tell women the only way that you can get an abortion in this state is if you accuse one of a rape, well, you're going to have millions of women around the country saying, I was raped, just to get an abortion. So they had to pass these adjoinders to those bills to protect the abortion thing that they were promoting. So it's interesting sometimes how the interest of one group and another group, even though they're not purposely trying to work together on something, end up working together. So because of the abortion bills that are being passed to abolish Roe v. Wade next year, they had to create a very high deterrence level laws to stop women from accusing men that they slept with through consent of rape, just so they can go get an abortion later. So what's going to happen is that this time next year, at least 32 of the states will have false rape accusation laws on the books. And one that I looked at in particular while researching the Brian Banks case was one in Alabama. And the one in Alabama, it's actually, the one in Alabama is actually passed by a House of Representative member down there in the state of Alabama by the name of Dickie Drake. And he represents Leeds, Alabama. So the bill that he passed would criminalize false rape accusations. He's a Republican. And the three major points of the bill is that it'll make false rape accusations a Class C felony. And it'll be up to 10 years in prison. This is serious, right? Like this is the strongest laws that we've seen in this nature. So with his law, you'll get up to 10 years in prison for falsely accusing someone of rape. And you'll also be liable for damages and attorney fees for if the person that you accuse is later found not guilty, not including the fact that you're also going to be liable for civil charges anyway. So this is one of the most strongest laws for deterrence that we've seen in a long time in America related to false rape accusations. So again, the Alabama law that is being passed right now in attachment with the heartbeat bill by Dickie Drake of Leeds, Alabama, representative, Class C felony, up to 10 years in prison, full damages and attorney fees on the accused. Now, there's probably going to be people listening like shocked that this has not been the law the whole time. But I'm sorry to tell you, but it has not been the law. In fact, attorney generals and prosecutors have always kind of just dropped the case. Once the person was found not guilty or they were exonerated of rape charges, they never really pursue the women, especially in the liberal states like California, New York, Illinois. So I'm having this conversation because for me, these digital spaces, this is what it's supposed to be for. Passing information to other men that they can go do their due diligence, they can do their own independent research and start to come to a conclusion of what it means to be a man in modern day Western society, and specifically America. So your life can be destroyed completely destroyed by the mere accusation of sexual misconduct or inappropriate behavior overnight. Your job, your family, your freedom, property, everything taken from you over the mere accusation. While women in this country can get away with murder and false accusations and go live their life and do like Juanetta Gibson did. She got a $1.5 million settlement. Luckily, this exoneration happened before she got the second half of that. So she initially got $750,000. And you know that her and her mom, they burned through that very fast in that 10-year period. So she was due to get the second part of the money. But this exoneration happened, and the whole story with Brian Banks is insane because he was exonerated because she tried to contact him on Facebook and request him as a damn friend after he got, so he's on house arrest. He's already done 6 years in the joint. He's been on house arrest for 5 years. And then this woman who was his accuser, now remember, she was 16 when she accused him under her mom's guidance and her mother and her mother's attorney that she got for the juvenile girl. Even though she herself, Juanetta Gibson, claims that she told the attorney that she lied. She told the attorney back then that she lied, that she was lying when they were doing the settlement. But her attorney and her mother got so greedy for that 1.5 million because, usually attorneys get like what I think 30% of settlements, in some cases up to 30%. So he was trying to get that bag. He wanted to get his cut, which would have been around like what, $300,000, $400,000. So her attorney that represented her in the lawsuit against Long Beach Unified District Schools, even though Juanetta claims that she told the attorney that she was lying, he said, just shut up and get this money. And her mom told her, listen to the attorney, we're going to get this paycheck off of this parade All-American football player. And we don't care about sacrificing him because he's nothing but a black male. We don't care if he was scheduled to go to USC with Reggie Bush. We don't care that he would have been on the USC Trojans championship team in 2004 as a star linebacker. We don't care that he would have been a first round to second round NFL draft pick. None of that shit is relevant. But we're going to return to Miss Juanetta in a moment. So, going back to due process, man. So for you all that are not aware of where our due process protections come from, they come from the Fifth Amendment, which was ratified with the original Bill of Rights in 1791, and the 14th Amendment. So I'm not going to read the 14th Amendment, but I'm just going to read the Fifth Amendment because it's pretty short. So the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, ratified in 1791, says, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Now, here's the most important part, this second clause. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or liberty, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So that part in the Fifth Amendment where it says, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That is critical because that's the linchpin upon which the metoo movement should be abolished and destroyed by reasoning people. Due process is there to protect our life, liberty, and property from the mere accusations. And that's what we have. That's why due process is so fundamental. And in this case, you got a 17-year-old teenager, single mother home, according to the news, probably broke. They can't afford a big time attorney like Lisa Borders of the Time's Up Now movement when her son was accused. I can't wait to tie her into this whole thing. See, this is one of the outcomes of these single mother fatherless households. There's no wealth. Single mothers are the most impoverished in America. They have the worst outcomes for their children. So something like this happens, and no one in America needs more protection than black boys that will become black men. They need the most protection in this country because they are the most marginalized, the most alienated, and the most envied in society. So when a Brian Banks gets accused of something like this, he has to get a public defender. He's only 17-year-old, and he don't know nothing. He knows nothing. All he knows is football. His mama don't know nothing. She's not a lawyer. She's not a banker. She's not an engineer. She don't have clout like that. So she's going to have to take the word of the attorney. And based on Brian Banks' own words, the public defender or the attorney that was given to him told him, take the plea deal because you're facing 41 years in prison for sodomy, kidnapping, and rape. And we'll get you a deal where you'll become a registered sex offender. You'll do 6 years in prison and you'll do 5 additional years on strict house arrest, right? So that's the deal he has to take. His deal never went before a jury because what do you do in that situation? A person that's in a single mother home, your mother is broke, you are a teenager, you don't got no money to get a big time attorney to represent you like Kevin Spacey can, or like a Weinstein can, or like Charlie Rose and all these other people can. They got the clout and the capital to get an attorney to represent them. You see what I'm saying? So you're facing 41 years versus you taking 6 years prison, sex offender registry, and 5 years of on-house probation. I mean, and you know you're innocent. That's the part that is so unfortunate and sad about the Brian Banks case. The man was completely innocent. So he took the plea deal. And plea deals are very, very hard to unravel once there's potential evidence that someone lied. So if there's evidence that the accuser lied, the threshold by which states hold a plea bargain conviction versus a jury conviction is much stricter and harder. So if he had went to trial and been convicted of the 41 years, and he had in this situation that came along where the woman admitted that she lied, then it would have been a much quicker process for exonerating him. But because he took a plea bargain, which waives, all your constitutional rights, it's such a more difficult situation because you're dealing with prosecutors. You admitted that you were guilty, and these prosecutors, they hate when a case that this is bad publicity for them. When they have a case like this, to this kind of notoriety, and they were wrong, it's bad publicity for them. And remember, in many states, the prosecutorial lane and the attorney general lane are usually pathways to greater politics, in particular, becoming governor of your state or becoming a senator. Like, you had a situation with top cop Kamala Harris, who was a prosecutor and attorney general, and this was actually in her state. So that has a whole nother connection as well. Her coming from the state of California, her being an attorney general. So prosecutors often have political ambitions, and these kind of cases, even if they find out themselves that they're wrong, they will actually try to bury these kind of cases and say, let that person rot in prison because I have political ambitions. Luckily for Brian Banks, he was dealing with a new administration and that in the prosecutorial office, from what I understand, and they worked with his defense team, which was actually the California Innocent Project, that helped him to get exonerated. So he was saying, and his attorneys were saying, that they actually worked with him, which is rare because often in these cases, the prosecutors will try to seal the case. And because they have the power to do so, they often can do so without any problem. So you'll just be sitting there rotting in prison, even though the accuser has come forward and admitted that they lied. They still, in some cases, won't let you out. So we're talking about a court system that has so many flaws and so much corruption. And when you start needling away and starting to make it as if due process is a bad thing, then you're going to have more and more outcomes like the Brian Banks. So I'm demanding that you black men and other men, that you start to put your foot down and say no further, and start to push back strongly with your voice, with your dollars, and with your vote, because that's all you got: your voice, your dollars, and your vote. So that's how you start to push back. Don't let this country cuckold you and put a skirt on you, and then we all end up like Brian Banks one day. Any of us could be Brian Banks, man. This man was innocent. Any of us could be Brian Banks. Wrong place at the wrong time at work. Wrong place, wrong time on a bad date, like Aziz Ansari ended up. You could just be with a woman and the shit goes bad because you won't do what she demands, and now she could blackmail you with your freedom, for your money, for your property. So I'm gonna pause for a moment, take a look at the chat, because I can never look at the chat when the screen shares up. Let me see what you guys have to say about so far. What's up, MOT? Lando. Trick Lessons in the house. Tyrone Church. Richard Victor Dixon. Let's Be Frank. Ifan. Just all of the brothers, man. Thanks for coming through. I'm going to go for about another 30 minutes, and then I'm going to invite you guys on the panel because I know that y'all going to have a whole lot to say, but I want to introduce a little bit more about the Brian Banks case and how it relates to Lisa Borders and Emmett Till. So I just want to take a break and check the chat for a minute because I like to hear what you guys are saying. And then I'll go for like another 30 minutes, and then I will invite anyone that wants to come on and talk about this because this is a very important case to talk about. I will post a link for the Alabama law. I got to go find that one. So Abdullah, when I actually invite you on the panel, please repost your question because in the meantime, you could easily look author of the bill in Alabama. Let me see what his name was again. Damn. So the guy's name in Alabama, his name is Drake. He's a House of Representatives in Alabama, for Leeds, Alabama. His name is Dickie Drake. And so it's the false accusation of rape bill. So you can find that one. So that should be a bill that every black male in particular, that you know these kind of things, and that YouTube, that's the only way we're going to change things, is with our voice, our dollars, and our vote. So you all go look up that bill in Alabama, because that should be a law in every state. Up to 10 years in prison for false accusation, Class C felony, full damages, and also the civil suit that these accused would have to pay. When these women understand that they will do the same kind of time as the person they're accusing of, they ain't gonna be out here making these kind of false accusations. They're doing it because society is telling them there is no punishment for you. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. So the man has to be treated as an adult in all ways. And if you're a black man, your adulthood begins when you have your first wet dream, according to the laws of this country, historically and now. So the woman, she could be 40 years old, but she's treated like a child. That's why when these women rape boys at the schools, they could be 30, 40, 50, whatever, they get a slap on the wrist. But the man did something like that, just be accused of it, he's going to do 10 years in prison. At what point do you men put your foot down? At what point do you grow some nuts? When do you grow a pair, bro? I mean, seriously, at this point. And this Brian Banks movie, this is great. This is good that Hollywood would take on something like, because usually they will suppress this kind of story and never let it get the light of day. So now that it does have the light of day, it's on us to push these kind of things out there for everyone to know about. At what point do you stop worrying about these rappers being arrested in other countries? Rappers being interviewed by politicians? That is a game. They got you so far off in bread and circuses and chasing celebrity clout that you don't even know what your interest is no more. All they got to do is put a celebrity on TV. No other group has celebrities as their spokespeople but the American black man. Our spokespeople is not doctors, engineers, lawyers, and people that have the knowledge of these things and that are pro-masculinist, but our spokesman got to be a fucking comedian, a stripper, whatever they want to choose for the day. And at what point do you guys start taking responsibility? I'm taking responsibility by using my voice for something that is going to help black men in their pursuit of their own happiness. So let me bring back up old girl. So yeah, that's Brian Banks, and that's his accuser, Juanita Gibson. So I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into who Brian Banks was, because his story is actually pretty amazing, because how a lot of us are into sports, and his story connects to a lot of NFL players and a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda. So basically, Brian Banks is 35 years old now, and he played at Long Beach Polytechnic, and he was set to graduate in 2003, right? So he had committed to USC, the University of Southern California. Now remember, at that time, the Trojans had just won a national championship. That's when they had Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush. I think he was a freshman that year. And I believe Reggie Bush will go on to win the Heisman the next year as a sophomore. So Brian Banks was a parade All-American. That means that he was one of the top 24 players in the country as a junior in high school. And he was just a junior. He was a 6'3", 250-pound linebacker. I mean, that's NFL size as a damn rising senior in high school. This dude was only 17. And he was already 6'3", 250. NFL size, playing for one of the top high schools in the country. Matter of fact, doing some research, I found out he played with Deshaun Jackson. He was on the team at the time. Deshaun Jackson was one of the top wide receivers in high school. He played at Long Beach Poly. And he went on to go to University of California to play for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buccaneers. And I think now Deshaun Jackson is playing for the Eagles again. But he's so we're doing a timeline here to get to the meat of what happened to this man. So you sitting here in the prison cell, and when you watching your former teammates having so much fun, rocking out on TV in D1 college, Pac-10, national champions. You watching your former teammate Deshaun Jackson lighting them up. And here you are sitting in a prison cell because of a lying whore. A lying whore. So eventually, after he was exonerated, he was about 28 years old. So he would go on to get signed to the Atlanta Falcons practice squad for one season. So, but the NFL is a very short-lived career. A lot of people call the NFL not for long. So the careers of NFL players are very short and they peak very quickly, right? So baseball tends to have the longest careers, then basketball after that, and then football is the shortest careers. I think the average NFL career is like 3 years, right? So if you're going to try out for the NFL after being in prison for 10 years and you're a 28-year-old man, I mean, that shows how naturally gifted this man was at football. This man was so naturally gifted at football that even after 10 years under California penal system, incarceration, and strict probation, he still was able to make it on an NFL practice squad. He only made it for one season, but that just shows how much talent this man had. And if he had went straight from high school, got to play his senior year, played at USC, we can pretty much do a simulation of where he would be at as a 35-year-old man. Usually the best NFL players, the all-pros, they retire around 34, 35. Those are the all-pros, the Hall of Famers. So Deshaun Jackson is still playing in the NFL. He's about 35, 36. So that tells you where Brian Banks, he would have been at the end of a very stellar NFL career, most likely. So he was convicted at 17 years old. He was going to graduate in 2003. So he would have been in the USC's recruiting class after Reggie Bush. playing for Pete Carroll. So to give you an example of how good of an athlete he was, the year that he was a parade All-American, Adrian Peterson, the future Hall of Fame running back for the Vikings and the Washington Redskins, was in his class. Okay? He was on the Adrian Peterson was on the offensive side of the ball as a parade All-American out of Texas. Brian Banks on the defensive side of the ball as a parade All-American. Another good player from that 2003, what would have been a 2003 parade All-American class, was Ted Ginn Jr. Ted Ginn ended up going on to play at Ohio State. He was never a Hall of Fame receiver, but he was a fast receiver that can catch a couple balls. He drops a lot of passes, but he ran like a 4.2. So Ted Ginn is actually still playing in the NFL just off his speed right now. These were two players that was in the parade All-American class with Brian Banks. So you know the level of athleticism we're talking about here. What was taken away from this man by a lying whore. So think about it. So we continue the simulation. Brian Banks, if he had gone on to play his senior year, he would have been playing on USC's championship team in 2004 because USC won back-to-back championships, 2003, 2004, under Pete Carroll. And Matt Leinart, the QB, and Reggie Bush were going both to win the Heisman. So during his time that he would have been in college, he would have got at least one championship. Shit, they may have gotten another one if he would have been on the team. So let's think about, okay, so had he played his career out at USC, we know that he would have won at least one NFL championship. Now, let's say that he would have gotten drafted in the first to second or third round, because based on his parade All-American status, we can predict that he would have been at least the top, either if not the top first round pick, he would have been in the first 3 rounds based on what his statistics look like in high school. Now, so I'm doing the data check on that. So if he would have came out his junior year in 2006 at USC, there were 31 linebackers taken in the NFL draft that year. The first linebacker taken that year was A.J. Hawk. He was the 5th pick in the first round out of Ohio State. Brian Banks was a much better athlete and higher ranked than A.J. Hawk going into his senior year. That's how good he was. He was ranked higher than A.J. Hawk coming out of high school. Way more athletic, same kind of strength, way more agility, way more awareness. So if A.J. Hawk was the 5th pick, the first linebacker picked in 2006 at number 5, and guess what his salary was? His rookie contract, A.J. Hawk, who Brian Banks was better than, was $37 million, okay? $37 million rookie contract A.J. Hawk got from the Green Bay Packers as the 5th pick in the first round. So we can at a minimum say that Brian Banks potentially lost at least $37 million if he would have came out in 2006. If he would have came out his senior year in 2007, there were 33 linebackers drafted into the NFL that year. The first linebacker was taken in the first round with the 11th pick with the 49ers, Patrick Willis out of Ole Miss. Brian Banks was ranked higher than A.J. Hawk and Patrick Willis as a junior in high school. So at a minimum, we know that if Brian Banks had had an opportunity to pursue his happiness and not had his freedom taken to him by lying lawyers, greedy women, and a corrupt court system, he would have been in line to make at least 17 to $37 million on a rookie contract. We're not even going to go into if he played for 10 years. We're just going to say he got a rookie contract and played at least 3 years. So he lost at least a minimum of 17 to $37 million because of the lies that was allowed against him by the California courts. One of the worst states in America, a state that borders on treason with every law they pass. The state of California is so poorly run, that state literally borders, they're almost a treasonous country at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, California is trying to become a part of Mexico or something, trying to secede to become a part of a second world country. I wouldn't be surprised at this point with California. It's one of the most poorly ran, corrupt states in America right now. It really is. So basically, you know, The charges were dismissed against Brian Banks on May 24th, 2012, just before his 28th birthday. And he was convicted of rape, sodomy, and kidnapping, man. And this is why Anita Gibson character, man, the accuser, who was a liar. She lied. She broke all the laws of California. In California, the laws for perjury. So I had to look that up as well. So in California, perjury is a felony. It's actually a felony in California. It is. And it's punishable up to 4 years in jail. And you can look that up. It's California Penal Code section 118 through 131. Perjury is a felony in California. Yet this woman is walking free right now. And she got half of her $1.5 million payment in a first lump sum, in a first installment or whatnot. Luckily, she didn't get the second half. And a false report in California is an additional misdemeanor, up to 6 months in prison. So at a minimum, this Juanetta Gibson, liar, bad, evil human being, she should have been convicted of perjury and false reporting under California Penal Code section 118 to 131 and false reporting California Penal Code 148.5. But yes, she's free because of the way that these misandric laws have been structured and the way that they perceive rape in America and sexual misconduct. You men that call yourself male feminists, you simps that cape for the gynocentric state, you deserve anything that you get from the gynocentric state. And I hope that you get your karma the way that Al Franken got his karma, the way that people like Lisa Borders got her karma, and the way that some of you, the comedian Aziz Ansari got his karma. You caping for a system that will eat you alive and discard you and spit out your bones with no problems when you put on a cape of male feminism and simphood. You're going to get yours eventually. See, when your day comes, when you find yourself before the gynocentric firing squad, you're going to regret every time that you simped, every time you cape for things that you knew in your heart were wrong and against men, just so that you can get a whiff of attention and female validation. And then the irony is that while you doing all that, you still not going to fuck, because she's going to go fuck that dark triad man that she thinks is a degenerate deviant anyways. That's the irony. So blood is on your hands, right? Blood is on my hands because we're Americans and we live in a republic. And in a republic, majority rules. That's how it works. So if a majority makes a law and you're in a minority, you have to accept the consequences of the ruling of the majority. And in the state of California, this is what the majority has decided. Men are going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Women will not be prosecuted, or at max will just get a slap on the wrist. This woman should have been in jail for perjury and false reporting. She should be in prison right now doing 4 years and making restitution payments to Brian Banks for the rest of her life, and her mother and the lawyer that represented her that lied, knowing that she was lying. He should be disbarred and buried underneath the prison, because for an attorney, the threshold should be even higher. For you to tell your client to lie so you can get that $300,000 cash, you should be disbarred. You should be put in prison for twice the amount of time as her. That's my opinion on that. But I don't live in California, luckily. But blood is all on all of our hands when they send innocent people and innocent men to prison on false accusations. And we just sit back and do nothing. So at a minimum, I can say, I made my voice heard, and I'm going to make my dollars count, and I'm going to make my vote count in 2020. It's no way in hell I will see a feminist and an anti-male candidate get my vote or get my validation. Never. It ain't going to happen. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me. So, you know, in regards to Juanetta Gibson's payout from Long Beach Unified School District, they ended up countersuing her after his exoneration. So what happened is that on August 12, 2013, the Long Beach Unified School District announced it was suing Juanetta Gibson for $2 million to try to recoup the money that she got in the $1.5 million settlement, because remember, they did an installment plan. So she got half of it up front and she was going to get the other half, I guess, around 2011 or so. But this exoneration happened. So they were able to keep $750,000. But think about that for a minute. We're not talking about a university. We're not talking about a corporation. We're talking about a public school system that, because of a liar, an evil human being, paid out $750,000 cash to this lying whore. That means that children of these same single mother kind of households didn't get computers, didn't get new supplies. Teachers didn't get raises. School maintenance and upkeep didn't happen because of this lying whore. We're talking about a public school. And from what I understand, Long Beach ain't a very rich area of California at that. But yet they had to pay this whore $750,000. This lying, evil succubus. Her and her mother and the lawyer, all in a conspiracy of evil lies to destroy one man's life so they can get paid. Never believe anybody when it comes to the law. You are innocent until proven guilty, so believe no woman. Hashtag believe no woman until proven that she is telling the truth in a court of law by a jury of their peers. Any laws that are made to undermine due process are treasonous and unconstitutional. And the kind of people that are trying to pass these kind of laws should be taken out and shot by a firing squad, because they're destroying lives on purpose. This is evil, man. Destroying lives on purpose. We have a treasonous element in our country right now. And I don't use the word treason lightly. I'm talking about people that will live to undermine the constitutional rights of others and the Constitution of this nation. They don't care about constitutional rights. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about humanity itself. All they care about is their selfish goals and needs. That's it. And no civilization and no society based on a constitution operates like that or can operate like that and call itself a constitutional republic. So this woman is literally walking around. So they won the case. So what happened is that the district ended up winning their counter lawsuit for an amount of $2.6 million against Gibson. But it's almost a meaningless, it's like a symbolic victory. This woman don't got no money. You know what I'm saying? She's a 33-year-old loser. Sexual marketplace loser. Economic loser. She only won at being a criminal that got away. That's what she wanted. Her only thing she ever won at life was becoming a successful criminal. She was temporarily a successful criminal because that man can never get back those 10 years of his life. He can never get back the $17 to $40 million minimum that was taken from that man. So she won at destroying another black person. This is a black American woman, a black American mother that destroyed a young black man for their own selfish goods. We are disposable in black America as black men. And we already know the dominant society don't care about us. But you would think that a little bit of love, a little bit of humanity will be left in black America for black men and black boys. They don't even have any empathy for us anymore. So it's on us to have empathy for each other and ourselves. We are the ones that have to practice the most self-love, black men, because society does not fuck with us. It wants to see us in a coffin or in a dress or in prison pinstripes. I'll say it again. And for all you black male haters out there, go ahead and comment. Let me know what you think. But this country only wants to see you in prison stripes, in a coffin, or in a damn dress if you are a black male in 2019. How you dudes can be out there caping for women that hate you, I don't even understand it. I don't know. So luckily, in the case of the Long Beach Unified School District, they canceled the second payment that was going to go to this lying whore and her mother and that attorney. This is the outcomes when you believe all women. This is the outcome when you put the succubus in charge of anything. This is the outcome when you take the word of a succubus. That's like a contradiction to take the word of a succubus, man. Think about that for a second. But what really hurts me is the fact that there are black boys and black girls in the Long Beach Unified School District that did not get the supplies they needed, did not get the new desks they needed. They were $750,000 was taken from what should have went to students, given to this woman. Who knows what her and her mother did with that money and the attorney? We don't know what they did with their money, but she was broke by the time that they came back and won the $2.6 million lawsuit against her. But yet, even with that lawsuit, like I said, it's a symbolic victory. They're not gonna ever get no money. She don't got no job. She can't pay it. She's in bankruptcy. This will probably be discharged in bankruptcy because she don't have nothing. She don't have no assets. She's nothing. She's a loser. A loser. And she destroyed a winner's life. Brian Banks was a champion. A champion on the field. Scholar athlete. He was a winner. And he had it all taken away by a succubus. So one of the things that I thought was interesting about looking at some of the information about the trial, they said that she had claimed initially that that summer that he actually dragged her into so she had this elaborate story. You know, they always got like an elaborate story when they want to accuse you, take away your liberty and your future. They come up with these elaborate Salem witch trial type stories, right? So she said that, oh, he dragged me like a barbarian because, you know, you got this dude is 6'3", 250, all-pro linebacker, and you got a woman. And the way she described it to them was like, he dragged me into the stairway. I couldn't resist his almighty brute force. And then he raped me and sodomized me. That's what she told these people, man. That's the story that she went to the principal of the high school, the principal of the high school, the law enforcement, the judge and the lawyer. This is the story she told them, man. This big black brute dragged me into the stairwell of my high school, raped me and sodomized me. And it was all a fucking lie, man. And then we got hashtag believe all women out here. When there's been whole black towns burned down because of the word of white women, Rosewood burned down because of a white woman getting beaten by a white man. Then she went out and said a black man raped. They burned down the whole town and killed. They don't even know how many people was really killed. They give a conservative number of 100 or whatever, but it's probably thousands that was killed in Rosewood. Burned the whole fucking town down. Black Wall Street. Believe all white women, the original standard for these misandries. A black man in a fucking elevator doing his job. His job was working the elevator. The elevator jerks. They say his elbow just touched her. She runs out talking about rape. That was a lie. Whole fucking town is burned down. People are killed and assaulted and put in jail. Thousands are buried out there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They ain't never did a full study of how many people was actually killed. The governor bombed them. That was the Democratic Party, which is ironic. Come to find out, KKK Democrats actually destroyed Black Wall Street, bombed and killed all those people, all over believe all white women. And then we come to Emmett Till and how this all connects to the Brian Banks because it has its origin in believe all white women. Emmett Till, 14-year-old kid, family from Mississippi, that moved up to his mom that moved up to Chicago, like many of us families moved from Mississippi to Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, whatnot. Goes down to Money, Mississippi to visit his granduncle. Finds himself in a store, a grocery store, owned by a white couple. Now, this woman, her name was Carolyn Bryant. Carolyn Bryant, the reason this story connects in so many ways is that Carolyn Bryant, on her deathbed, she admitted to the mainstream media that she lied. She made up the whole story about him grabbing her and whistling all this shit. Because remember, in the case of Emmett Till back in 1955, so the story was that he was in the grocery store of this white married couple. The white man, the husband name was Roy Bryant. And the wife, her name was Carolyn Bryant. This happened in Money, Mississippi, near the Tallahatchie River down there in Mississippi. And so he's in the grocery store visiting his uncle for the summer. He's going to get some candy or whatever, 14-year-old kid. So she had told the story that Emmett Till grabbed her, then was making like obscene, like calling her bitch, you know, things like that. Bitch, you're going to let me touch you. That's what she claimed that Emmett Till did. Well, we all know the outcome of what happened to Emmett Till, how her husband, Roy Bryant, and his buddy, J.W. Milam, came at gunpoint and kidnapped him from his granduncle's home. And there's nothing he could do. It ain't nothing his granduncle could do but die, because that's the way that Jim Crow laws were set up in 1955. White people could get away with these kind of things. So they dragged this 14-year-old teenager, shot his body up, beat his body to a point that you can't even recognize it. You can all go search the pictures. And then threw his wrapped like some kind of engine device that they tied around his body with barbed wire. They didn't already shot up the body. First they beat him to a bloody pulp, so he was already dead from the beating. Then they just shot his body up with who knows how many bullets. Then they tied an engine fan thing around his body and dumped him in the fucking Tallahatchie River. This was one of the things that these are one of the sparks of the civil rights movement. So you would have the Rosa Parks bus boycotts and all that came along. You had the Emmett Till, because one of the things that was unique about Emmett Till is that his mother refused to do a closed casket funeral. And this thing would show to the whole world the racial terrorism and the brutality of being a black boy or a black man at that time. So this is a long history of this believe all white women thing, because that's where this all came from. So what's so sad about the case of Emmett Till is that on her deathbed, and I guess she would have been like in her 70s or 80s at this time, she was interviewed on 60 Minutes and the New York Times and all this. Carolyn Bryant admitted that she lied about the whole thing. And you just ask her, why? You just lying just to lie. This is what a lot of these women do. They just make up shit because something didn't go their way or they had a bad day or whatever. That's enough for them to destroy lives. And I'm supposed to get behind believe all women? Are you insane? The only hashtag I want to see is due process before and for all. Due process for all until the lights go out. That's the hashtag I want to see. Due process for all until the lights go out. But these are the kind of treasonous individuals, the kind of lunatics that we have that have the voice, that have the money behind them, and that are giving platforms. But we have to use what we got. David only had a rock, and it was enough. This is all we got. But we're going to use it to destroy these myths and deconstruct the lies that's damaging and destroying lives, man. So, yeah, that was the situation with Emmett Till. The woman on her deathbed, after she done destroyed these lives, she comes out and says, oh, I lied about the whole thing. So this is what you're dealing with when you're talking about believe all women. Now, I want to close out the conversation about Brian Banks because, you know, that's basically what happened. His NFL career was destroyed. Now there's a movie out about it. He was exonerated in 2012. The woman is still free. And he'll never get those years back. He'll never recover that money. But he can do the best to use his life as an example of how these kind of laws that protect these liars, these felonious liars, these women that should be found guilty of false reporting and perjury, we should all be getting behind the bills like the one in Alabama that specifically target false rape accusers and gives them double penalties. Because think about it. The false report penalty is only 6 months, misdemeanor. The perjury is a felony, but up to 4 years. And we know they give women less sentences. So on average, the woman might get a year house arrest and then like 4 years probation. But under the Alabama law, you're looking at up to 10 years and a Class C felony and full punitive damages. So that's what I'm putting out here in the zeitgeist. You men should be getting behind laws that give punishment to these false accusers, because one day your ass might be Brian Banks. And don't say it can't happen to you, because it happened to him and he was on top of the world. It can happen to any man under these kind of laws. So I kind of wanted to segue to Lisa Borders, and I will just invite anyone that want to come on the panel and chop it up for an hour or so about what I've been talking about, because this is deep stuff that affects us all. And some of you got young black boys, and you may end up in this situation when your son is a high school All-American, and he is exploring his sexuality with young women and ends up in a situation like this falsely just because she didn't get what she wanted out of the deal. So some of you may be familiar with Lisa Borders, but Lisa Border connects to this whole thing in such a dramatic way. You know, I'm gonna bring up Lisa Borders for you guys, man. The situation is comedy. So let's see. Got to bring up this Lisa Borders stuff. I know I have a little bit of buffering, but hopefully you guys can hear me. Just like the computer was doing a little bit of buffering, so I need to close some of these screens. So I'm trying to bring up this Lisa Borders. I had some buffering issues. I had to close some screens, but hopefully everything is still cool. I got to check in on you guys in the chat real quick, but just give me a second. All right, so I'm gonna bring up the screen with Lisa Borders, because I want you guys to see this woman. Her case is very interesting to me. What happened with her and her son, and how it was. I mean, just the irony when they talk about the chickens coming home to roost, and be careful what kind of karma that you put out there, because you might end up like Lisa Borders. So let's talk about who Lisa Borders is and why she's significant. So Lisa Borders, she's an American Black woman. She's currently 61 years old, and she was the other side of Tarana Burke's Me Too coin. So for all you people who have followed the Me Too movement since around 2007, 2018, when it arose to prominence and it was putting these accusers on the front of Time magazine, except for Tarana Burke, the other side of the Me Too movement from an organizational standpoint was a movement created by Hollywood celebrities called Time's Out. So Time's Out was the legal defense arm of the Me Too movement. So Me Too was more of the advocacy, digital advocacy, marches, and all of that kind of stuff that you were seeing in the media. The marches, a lot of that was organized by the Me Too movement. But the legal aspect of the legal fund part of it was called Time's Up. And this was funds that they got from Hollywood actors, directors, or whatever. In particular, what stood out to me was the fact that Mark Wahlberg had donated like $1.5 to $2 million to the Time's Out legal fund. Now, remember, this is a legal fund that goes after men potentially falsely accused of rape, sexual misconduct, or sexual assaults, or even just looking at a woman the wrong way. Yet someone like a Mark Wahlberg, who I guess he fancies himself a male feminist, donated up to $2 million to this fund. So Lisa Borders has a very strong resume, right? So Lisa Borders is a graduate of Duke University, and I believe she got a master's from like Colorado University or somewhere. And the main mission of Time's Up is pursuing sexual assault convictions against men, because I haven't heard of them pursuing any men that were accusing women. Matter of fact, one of the women that was big face of Time's Up, she was accused of raping a young man. She was the girlfriend of Anthony Bourdain. I can't think of her name right now, but the girlfriend of Anthony Bourdain, she was like the main face of Time's Up part of it, the legal defense part. Oh, we got to go sue these guys or whatever. She ended up being accused herself of doing a grooming process of molesting a young man through his teenage years. And she quickly was shoved aside and dropped from public view. So I didn't hear them going after women like that. So basically, it's an attempt to go after men that have been accused of false rape or whatever, sexual misconduct, and that have money. So it's really a cash grab. So let's be honest. The Me Too movement and its legal arm, Time's Up, are cash grabs to go accuse rich men and to get their assets and transfer them to women in the interest of women in these organizations. That's basically what it boils down to. So Lisa Borders, being a Black feminist, she was one of these rah Black feminist cheerleaders. She became the CEO of Time's Up because, of course, at that time, Me Too was having a lot of racial issues between Black women and white women and other women against the white woman. So they had all this issues going on between the different races of women last year in regards to policy and leadership of the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement. So, of course, they went and found a Black woman to put as the CEO. Oh, we ain't racist. We got a Black woman in charge. So she takes the job. Time's Up was organized on January 1st, 2018 as a nonprofit organization, legal defense fund or whatever. And they picked her as the first CEO in 2018. Well, unfortunately for Lisa Borders and her son, he's a podcaster and a yoga instructor, 36-year-old Black man. He's a Black male living out in San Francisco. And he was saying that he was mostly raised just by her. His father was absent from his life. So again, he's a product of a single mother home. He was saying that his mom was too busy doing her career to raise him. So he was a latchkey kid and she was busy pursuing her career, as a lot of women have done in that generation of women from the older the younger baby boomers and the older Gen X women. That's what they were focused on, their career, not their kids. So he is out here in California while his mom is out here pursuing all these feminist activities. He's out here, he's a yoga instructor. And he did like a private session out there in California with a yoga instructor. She's a woman named what was her name? Celia Gellert. That's her name. Now this case is currently ongoing. So it just happened back in February. So he was accused of sexual misconduct and sexual assault by another yoga instructor out in Santa Monica named Celia Gellert. Now here's the irony. So the moment that this case hit, now there's a conflict of interest for Lisa Borders because her whole organization is meant to convict men like her son, who she herself believes is falsely accused. Now think about the irony of that. She's out here convicting other men and raising legal defense money to convict other men like Brian Banks, like her son. But the moment her own son was accused of sexual conduct, she believes that he's innocent. So because of that, she ends up dropping and resigning from Time's Up after being on the job for only 4 months. And they've replaced her now, I believe, but they were doing a search for a replacement. But she ends up dropping and resigning from Time's Up so that she could defend her son. Now, this is the difference between a Brian Banks and being the son of Lisa Borders when falsely accused of a crime. Guess who she got to be a lawyer for her son that is currently representing her son in his sexual assault case? The attorney for Kevin Spacey. Ain't that something? Isn't that interesting? So she has enough clout and enough money that she can get one of the top attorneys in California to represent her son, who is in an ongoing legal dispute right now. And if he's guilty, he could end up being the next Brian Banks. So she ended up quitting that job. And, you know, this woman accused her son. His name is Gary Bowden Jr. And so the female yoga instructor said that, like, they were doing a private session, practicing different techniques or whatever. And I guess the homeboy got a little bit sexually excited, she claims, and was rubbing his self up against her. And I guess, you know, that's kind of what they do in these massage sessions. Now, in his defense, his attorney says that he has a text message from the accuser, Celia Gellert, saying that she enjoyed the session. It was one of her favorite sessions. See, this is what happens with this accusation culture. So he has a text that is going to be provided to the court that shows that she had no complaints after the session. In fact, she was, the way it read is almost like a sext. Like he was doing sexual things, she claims, but then she sent him a text saying that she liked the session. So her son is currently on trial, going to trial, preparing for trial for sexual assault on a yoga instructor. And that's why I was saying earlier that it seems like what it takes for these women to wake up from this gender bias hypnosis of the radical feminists is when their own sons start becoming a victim. Because I suspect that the most virulent radical feminists are those that don't even have children. They're women that are the biggest man haters, possibly lesbians, and most likely don't have children of their own. They are the ones that are leading these other women down a road that's going to destroy everything that the family represents if they get their way. So I'm going to just go ahead and close it out with that. You guys can look at the links that I put in the chat. I'm going to open up the panel, see if anyone wants to come on, because I haven't had a chance to look at the chat when I'm doing these screen shares. So let me see what you guys are saying. Okay, yeah, that was Anthony Bourdain, the woman that they say potentially might have, some even say that she might have killed him. There's been some people saying that it's possible that Asia Argento, and there was also kind of conspiracy. And that's only an allegation that's out there about this Asia Argento. She was into some weird shit. If you look into her, she was in like a lot of satanic witchcraft type shit. So I don't know, but the man is dead, and she was molesting some young man. that brought some kind of case against her recently. I haven't followed it, but she was the face of Time Out and Me Too at that time. But then the management of the movement, they have a little civil war going on right now, and general society is turning against them as well. So we'll see how that turns out. But it's interesting that happened to her, man, to Lisa Borders, because she was one of the biggest feminist advocates out there until her own son ended up. So if anyone want to come on, man, let me know. Because I'm opening up the panel for this last hour. So let me see if is there anyone currently in the chat that wants to come on and have something to say? I don't know if you're at work right now, Sir Tricks, but there's a lot of shit that's been going on out there in California in terms of their misandry laws. So I definitely, if you got time, I'd like to hear your opinion on some of this stuff. Just let me know. Oh, yeah, Supreme King Kun, yeah, they definitely swept that Asia Argento thing under the rug. And that's just what they do, man. They, when something like that happens and it shows the female side of the fuckery, they always going to sweep it under the rug. But it's on us men out here to start pushing back completely. I mean, like unapologetically pushing back. I'm down. Like I said, I'm willing to give my voice, and I'm going to, keep my dollars in my pocket, and I'm going to keep my vote for only someone that meets the kind of agenda that I believe that's a pro-masculinist agenda and a pro-black male agenda. Outside of that, I'm pulling out. You know what I'm saying? Pull your dollars. Like I said earlier with the case of Gillette. Gillette had to learn the hard way, an $8 billion loss. Just imagine the people that were sitting there like, yeah, this is a smart idea. Let's do this toxic masculinity thing and attack our consumer-based males. That shit blew up in their face, man, over the quarter 1, 2019 and quarter 2, 2019. Blew up in their face. So all of those people are going to be fired, and a whole bunch of people that didn't stand up and block that ad from within their organization, they're going to be fired too over this stupidity. Don't attack your customer base, man. That's a bad strategy. Don't attack your customer base. That's my advice on that one. So let me go ahead and send out some of these links, man, because I know it's a time where a lot of people are stuck in traffic right now. So I kind of just wanted to do this last live stream with the Google Hangouts. It's unfortunate that Google is getting rid of this because, Google Hangouts is so efficient. It's so user-friendly. It's very much unfortunate that they're getting rid of it. I did see Mana Tomorrow in the chat earlier, so I will send him the link, see if he's available right now. But I know he'd be on the road a lot of the times during the day, so he might not be available. But it's a conversation that needs to be had, man, because it's just getting out of hand at this point. It's getting out of hand with this false accusations, the lack of punishment for those that falsely accuse. It's insane at this point. And it's not going to stop until we actually start fighting back. So the responsibility falls on our shoulders because we are the men that are supposed to be protecting everything. That's just the responsibility that's put on us as men. Unfortunately, the women are, on average, they're not willing to step up to the plate and defend the family. So we men have to decide to defend the family, to protect the black boys and to protect the black girls who are actually being misled by a small group of female lunatics that hate men, hate the family, and hate the world and just want to see it burn. I think a radical feminist is like the Joker spirit. They're in that Joker spirit. They just want to see the world burn. They just want to see society burn, just like the Winetta Gibson wanted to see Brian Banks burn. This is really their mentality. So I see that we got someone that joined in. I call him, he's my minister, Mana Tomorrow. Welcome, brother. I see that Edward Anderson dropped in as well. Welcome. And I'm just going to hand the mic to you guys because I talked for like 90 minutes. And I want to see what you guys have to say about, the Brian Banks movie, what I talked about with Lisa Borders, and how it all just connects to a overall general misandry towards black men. So you guys got the mic.
Yeah, Edward, you can go first.
No, I would literally just
walking out of the job, and my shit was hitting on in that damn locker. But no, what's the topic?
We're talking about the Brian Banks movie and how he was exonerated, and we talked a lot about his accuser, Juanita Gibson. She was a Black American woman, and her mother and her attorney, they conspired to have him convicted so that they can get a $1.5 million settlement from Long Beach Unified District Schools. But he ended up being exonerated in 2012, and the movie comes out August 9th about his story. So I just talked about the history of that. So I mean, you're aware of the Brian Banks movie because
all right, 1 second.
Yeah. You were on Mr.
All right, yeah, I get a piece of this. All right, so here's the thing. Because, Mr. Research was talking about that.
Yep.
It's
shout
great.
Out to Mr. Research.
Huh?
I said shout out to Mr. Research because I know that he was the one that started the conversation.
Even though his hangout kind of got hijacked for people that want to make things niggified and settle bullshit beefs and shit. Here's the thing. I look at, Black YouTube, and you look at what the potential is. I'm talking about Black, but not just Black YouTube. This is it's not entertainment, but this is like a production. So it's not just like the manosphere part of Black YouTube. But my thing is, you look at what it could be and what it should be, and I kind of made a similar assessment on the Samuel L. Jackson movie, the Shaft movie, because that's like showing Black men, a movie with Black men. And I do think we need to do better at bringing attention and awareness to certain productions that kind of benefit our message, our narrative. Because if we don't do it, who the fuck is gonna do it? It's kind of like when we don't do things for ourselves, we can't expect others to do it for us. And when people say, like, well, who is supposed to do it? The answer is you. And I'm talking about as an individual, it is you. It is your responsibility. If you want to see something change, it is your responsibility. That's one side of it. The other side of it, though, I completely agree with the sentiment MOT made, is that at the end of the day, a movie is not going to change. A movie can change minds. I won't act like it won't. But let's not make something bigger than what it is. The reality is people are aware that a lot of this shit is on some bullshit when it comes to metoo and stuff like that. People know that. And what I would say is, as Black men, we need to stop waiting for people to do movies and start producing our own documentaries. And whether it's a group, whether somebody wants to invest in a project, do the project, whatever, and get that information out there. We have to get our side of the story out there. Otherwise, you got to look at media like air war, like air battles. The propaganda, whether it's good or bad, which is your version of what happened, is if you don't tell your story, somebody's going to tell it for you. And at the end of the day, I see way too many people in the manosphere that's more interested in being entertained. I'm talking about Black men. They're being entertained and not really investing in anything. And then if the people they do invest in are people that, quite frankly, they shouldn't be fucking investing in the first fucking place, to be honest with you. Because those folks have not demonstrated that they have the ability to actually produce a viable product. And they're investing in them over some emotional bullshit because what they're saying about Black women or whatever.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I'll leave it at that. I mean, I'll leave it at that at the end of the day.
Are you going to go see the Brian Banks movie?
I'll probably check it out. I'm not going to act like, look, I'm not going to lie to you and act like I see every movie. I didn't see Shaft. I should have. I didn't see Creed. I should have. I caught Creed on the Red Box. But there are obscure movies that I've checked out. I went and paid full price for Fruitville Station. Make sure I got a copy of that. So I put my money up when it comes to being a market, and I'll probably get a good copy of Shaft in the DVDs. So I make it up for and I'll probably check it out. But I'm more of a documentary person myself.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just watched a documentary. There's a good one on Netflix right now called Auschwitz. Man, it breaks down like the whole thing, like how the German people got behind the Nazi party and how they was literally trying to exterminate every one of those Jews in Europe. Man, it's a good documentary. It's called Auschwitz. You should check it out if you like documentaries. But so what do you think about the fact that in this case of Brian Banks, the accuser, Juanita Gibson, you know, she ended up, the way that they found out that she lied. So he had already did the 6 years in prison. He had already did 5 years on like strict house arrest, wearing the bracelet and all that for like 5 years. But what happened, this shit is crazy, bro. In 2011, the accuser who had ruined his life. Now, Brian Banks, I don't know if you heard the part, he was a parade All-American. He was gonna go to USC and play with Reggie Bush. Now.
Okay, so it was that dude.
Yeah, he was gonna be on the USC team that won the championship in 04. He would have been a freshman that year. And he was the number, like, I guess he was like number 1 to 2 or 3 for linebackers. So he was in that class with like AJ Hawk and Patrick Willis, who both went on to make in their rookie contract. Willis made 17 million in his rookie contract, and AJ Hawk, he made like damn near 38 million because you know they changed the rookie scale after that year. But he got, man, AJ Hawk got paid as the number 1 linebacker of the year. So he ends up being in a situation with her, and she reaches out to him on Facebook and tries to request him as a friend. And he was saying that he couldn't believe what he was seeing with his own eyes. That the woman who destroyed everything that he had reached out to him on Facebook, and he says that she was actually reaching out to him on some like, let's try to reach.
And part of my ignorance, but this was a white, obvious. I didn't even have to ask you. It was a white bitch that did that.
No. Wait. What'd you say?
Was the chick white or black?
No, she's a Black American woman, and her mom's black. Okay. Not just a Black American. She's a dark-skinned Black American. I just put her picture up. I had her picture up the whole time. So
For those that think I know everything, I don't.
Bro.
So, okay, I stand corrected.
You're not alone. I thought it was a great chick as well. But no, it was a Black American woman. Black American mother. I don't know if the attorney was black, but they all conspired against him. So think about that for a minute, bro. So she reached out to him in 2011 after he did all this time. He done lost his whole career. And then she tries to flirt with him on Facebook, bro. So what happened, he met up with her, making her think that, oh, I'm going to try to rekindle this flame even though you destroyed my life. And he brought like a voice recorder. And he recorded her. And then he got a private investigator and they got an attorney and all this stuff. And that's how the whole thing happened, man. But she actually, at her post-war, so think about it. So she was 16. He was 17 when they first messed around. And this whole thing happened. He went to prison from 18 to like 27. He was locked up under the penal codes of California or whatever, right? So then she reached out to him when she was like 27. So we know how here in the Red Pill, we talk a lot about the wall. So basically, just think about the psychology of this stuff, bro. You got a woman who conspired to destroy this man's life with her mother and attorney. 10 years later, her pussy getting wet. She don't got no man. She's a loser. She done blown $750,000 of the settlement because from the first installment, they made sure to cancel the second installment. And then she tried to reach out to him to add her on Facebook so she could try to rekindle.
I mean, that's just some goofy ass shit. I mean, this is what I would say, and I'm not ashamed, but I'm not proud to say this in my family. There's a couple of females in my family, bum ass bitches, but when it comes to scamming, you know, there's some fucking gutter snipe females out there. You got to understand, women can compartmentalize a lot of shit. Like I always say, women can compartmentalize murder if they've been formatted like to a certain extent to do so. And when it comes to that scamming, that credit card fraud and stuff like that, because we live in a society where you're not really dealing with dudes that got money you could take are typically not the type of dudes that are gonna use like extra legal means to deal with that situation. You know what I'm saying? This ain't like, okay, you got the mafia, so even if you square, you could be like, okay, I'm going to them people where I wouldn't go to before, but there's a mechanism I have in the community to handle that. So people know that they do that. There's a way to kind of, you know, put you in the penalty box, so to speak, for doing unspeakable things. You don't really have that in our community, not like that. And the reality is, you got people where, like, we've even had these battles on YouTube when people want to have the educated, the quote unquote EDL battles, where people will literally, I'm talking about black men, will justify. I promise you, if I wanted to really start a beef right now and started really talking shit, I could bring up prominent YouTubers that I've heard them And I mean, like, I could pull up the clips where they have out the side of their tongue. I'm talking male YouTubers justify black men being square, black men being scammed by females. Like when they get mad and you start having that educated lane versus Pookie and Ray Ray debate, they'll start justifying the shit. Talk about, well, they do that because you don't come back in the community and they don't see you. Like, I'm talking about prominent YouTubers. You know, and they've said it more than once. And at the end of the day, it speaks to this reality where they think certain things are okay because, you think, it's the crab in a barrel mentality. So my point is, and by the way, a lot of times when these females are doing scams, sometimes they're doing it at direction of a dude or they're doing it at direction of an older female. Like
Edward, if you look at the screen share, you can see the woman. She looks like your regular American Daggle, just your average, below average Daggle.
Oh, by the way, it's the same thing that what's her name? I think it's not Sarah J. I forget what her fucking name is. But when Tariq Nasheed was on, obviously Tariq Nasheed didn't have a lot to lose like this dude did, so this is extreme. But when that chick from Tariq Nasheed's Ism Radio, tried to do the same shit to him.
Oh yeah.
And look, you remember what Cynthia G did?
I don't know anything about it. Like, what are you talking? What happened with him?
Okay, so this is what happened. To make a long story short, Tariq Nasheed has a show called Ism Radio. It's a show. He's interviewed Nipsey Hussle before he died. He interviewed Isaiah Washington. It's a good internet show. Very good. Tariq Nasheed had at his first all his co-hosts are black, or for the most part. His first two was this weirdo black emo chick. One of these chicks that would be like all up in the LGBT, just like extra freaky. I'm talking about like kind of just on some other shit, not even like normal freak, just on some other type of shit, some liberal Hollywood weird shit, right? That's the type of look. Dave had that type of look. So you got her, and you had the mix, the chick that was kind of mixed, but you knew she was fucking white dudes. So anyway, the first chick got fired or left, but got fired. And then the second chick, Tariq Nasheed, publicly fired on air. And it was like some embarrassing shit he did. Like, it was something where it looked like he set it up for it to happen like that. It is what it is. But what she did, what she kept on, and when people were asking him, why did you do it like that? He said, well, first of all, Tariq Nasheed is petty. He admits that. But he also said she kept on wanting to be alone with him. Because Tariq Nasheed's married. And she kept on putting herself in strategic situations where it would just be him and her. And Tariq is kind of smart about that type of shit. And it wasn't like he was trying to fuck her like that anyway. He just gave her a fucking job. And he peaked that, and he was able to kind of maneuver around that. But then basically she kept on trying to Me Too him before Me Too really revved up. And then that's why he got rid of her like he did. And then she decided to try to make some shit up. And then this is when Cynthia G, she did a video with Cynthia G, and Cynthia G was on air telling her, oh, you should sue. You should say he did something. Like, she was on air saying this. This is on tape. This is not debatable. And then actually Tariq Nasheed Cynthia G ended up calling in because Tariq Nasheed was bashing her. And then she did the denial card, but he heard it. Everybody heard it. Wow. And then next thing you know, like another month later, the FBI is up Tariq Nasheed's ass. Tariq Nasheed's got his hands up in the air. FBI got shit pointed at him. Fucking his wife, his baby, his son, his younger son. And the FBI is all over their fucking house like some damn OJ shit.
Well, what you're saying to me is this is what I'm talking when I talk about toxic femininity.
And remember, Tariq is like 6'4". That's a big nigga. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so when I talk about the toxic feminine principle, this is what I'm referring to. See, so you're telling me this story about this woman, you're saying that, and all these black YouTubers in the so-called black manosphere, they're out here having conversation with known toxic females.
This is all, and you know what? Like, real talk, I hate to cut you off, but this is not no secret shit. And this is really, that was the more recent shit she did. That wasn't even like the most shit she did. I'm gonna say this and I'm done. When you got these females, it's one thing for dudes to be interviewing chicks, but when you got these females, like, I'm gonna say it, JV, I ain't got no real issue with JV. I'm gonna put Nyla's name out there. That you see that they like spout out from fucking It's one thing I told Taz when Taz was on Low Cash channel, and Taz said he didn't know, and I understand that he wouldn't.
I don't really want to bring that black manosphere shit over here, to be honest.
Okay, well, I'll say this, and I'll keep it like this.
Yeah, because
people know about this shit. You know, this is not secret shit.
I just see, for me,
because I don't care about the nigga shit either. But I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, like, I don't want to give no one no indirect clout, is what I'm saying to you. So it's like I use terms like toxic females, daggers, succubus, and maggles for the dudes and simps, because I'm not trying to give nobody no clout. That ain't what this space is for. So that's all I was saying, is that I don't want you to indirect.
Oh, okay. I understand that.
See, here's what I learned. You may think that you bringing up their people's name is either it's an indifference or whatever, but there are people out there that like it. They enjoy the fuckery, bro. They enjoy the toxicity. Like, you bringing their name up, even in this space, they enjoy the shit. But if you limit it to, like, just putting them in a category like maggle, daggles, succubus, toxic female, that they cannot take. But if you actually are giving these losers clout, man, don't sleep. They like this shit. Like, a lot of people like negative attention just as much as positive.
You're right, but I get that. But in this special circumstance,
I get what you're saying, though. Like,
a lot of folks act like they don't, and that's different than like a Boyce Watkins having the type of subscriber base he has, bringing the woman I just named up. Like, she exists, and this is the irony, and I won't mention names anymore. This is the irony. Tariq Nasheed is the original dude that actually put her on. And Boyce Watkins is the dude that actually railgunned her to why she had the kind of credibility that she even had. If it wasn't for them two, you wouldn't even know who that person is. So what you just said is just now validated, but that's the irony. That's who put her on.
Here's my thought. I just keep it real simple, bro. I'll keep it real simple. Misery loves company, and it's a law of social psychology that you should avoid infectious spirits. So if you are a person who is going to bring toxic people, male or female, amongst your space, then, and you don't think it's gonna burn down, that's on you. See, I'm keeping it real, so I don't want to get over analytical on the shit. If you associated with known toxic individuals that have tried to destroy people in the way that you're saying, like they tried to destroy that brother Tariq, trying to set him up on some Me Too shit, and you're associating with those kind of spirits, I don't want no association.
I agree. Dudes are responsible for the relationship they choose to engage in, and I didn't know bullshit. I don't believe in that, so I completely agree.
I'm gonna come back to you, Edward, but I want to give MOT a chance and Sigma Jones welcome, because we kind of got into a long exchange. But MOT, you got the mic, and then Sigma Jones.
Yeah, for that particular situation. Now, what could happen is that we could just call for should be a call to action for legislation, because from what you were saying earlier, that normally the prosecutors don't work that hard to try to get people out. So we need an independent commission along with these prosecutors, because I feel these prosecutors got way too much unchecked power to like put people in jail, to put people on trial, and there should be significant consequences whenever they lose. Like they lose their job, they lose their ability to do stuff. But when it's always a black dude involved, I've seen prosecutors do the most just to try to get a dude to get a plea deal, knowing damn well that they have no intention on taking that to court. And what we have to do is we have to change the plea bargain kind of system as well. So that way, even if you offer a plea bargain, even if you go to a trial, that's as much time as you can get is the plea bargain time, because that way it'll stop people from losing based off of nonsense and them getting a whole bunch of years. Because had that dude, had the circumstances been a little bit different, that dude probably could have been doing a hell of a lot more time than what he did do.
Oh, he was looking at 41 years. That was what the offer was, 41 years, or to take the 6 years in prison and the 5 years on house arrest deal. That was his choice.
That's what I'm talking about. If that dude was white, given everything and the circumstances being the same, and that dude had a good attorney, there ain't no way he would have been offered a deal like that. After that trial,
that's what the lawyer told. The lawyer told him his lawyer told him that he was only going to do probation. It's all messed up. The whole court system up there, man, it's all messed up, bro.
Yeah, I mean, but more of this is a call to action, and I believe in producing documentaries better than producing whole movies because documentaries are cheaper to produce. You can put them in front of Hollywood kind of people very easy, and you can get your stuff
Exactly.
funded after your first or second time doing it. And plus, you're talking about factual information, so it's not nonsense or BS that you're talking about. Because, to tell you the truth, a lot of people don't know about these issues. They just don't until it's all wrapped in a documentary, and then they get kind of up in arms about it.
And say
So
more.
that's all I got on that. Yep. So that's all I got on that.
Appreciate that insight, MOT. You always got a different take. Sigma Jones, welcome, bro. Go ahead and chime in, man.
Hey, how y'all doing?
I'm good, bro. Glad to have you
Good,
on.
good. I haven't too long got off of work, so I was listening in and out the conversations y'all was having. Good feedback, man, because I was just thinking about something. I saw the topic you talked about on Brian Banks, and it got me thinking about the infamous Emmett Till case. And I was just thinking to myself how, it's years later that the white woman come out and confessed that she lied about it.
Yep.
But I'm thinking to myself this: for every Emmett Till case that we hear in today's modern time, we can name off 20 to 50 Brian Banks cases. Some of them are still ongoing. And the message that I would try to give out to a lot of brothers is be careful around these American women. And no matter what race, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatsoever. But if we're just going to go off of the data and how many brothers are in prison because of false accusations, let's be honest. Most of these accusers are the same ones who have the same skin tone. And that's why I would tell any brother, don't put no trust in any females, even if they're of your own kind. Your own kind is more likely to put you in prison than any random woman. And so, just listening back on the feedback you guys are saying, it just reaffirms my belief that, brothers, just be about your business. If you're trying to focus in school, trying to focus on career, starting a business and everything, do that, because females come and go. And, if you are serious about something long-term, family-wise and everything, your best bet will probably be at this point in time, may have to find somebody from another culture, whether it's, somebody who's same melanin as you or somebody who's of a different race. Fact of the matter is, in this day and age, as a black man, you got to look out for yourself first before anything and everything else.
What's my response to that? So you said that. See, when people say that you got to find a woman from a different culture, I have to hit back on that because that ain't the solution either. The solution is to find a woman that respects men, whatever culture. No culture should be pedestalized or put down just for being a culture or a race. So the thing is,
yeah.
I feel because another case that I was going to talk about was the Sean Oakman case. Are you aware of Sean Oakman and Rodney Anderson?
Oh yes, definitely aware of them.
So I don't know if the audience is aware of Sean Oakman and Rodney Anderson, but I wanted to talk about that as well because that relates as well because these were, again, football players. The Sean Oakman case, he got lucky. He got found not guilty, and Rodney Anderson did. But they were so close to becoming the next Brian Banks. Now, in the case of Rodney Anderson, the running back that was drafted last year to the Cincinnati Bengals, he was out at Oklahoma University, right?
Yep, that's correct.
It was a white girl, from my understanding, in both of these cases. So Sean Oakman was at Baylor. And a lot of people that's in the sport know who Sean Oakman is because he became a meme. Because he was like this 6'8", 300-pound defensive lineman, all muscle. He was actually going to be the #1 pick in 2018, bro. Or no, 2016.
Yeah,
but
that's
he was
correct.
Going through this court shit for like 3 years because that stuff be taking a couple years sometimes. So Sean Oakman out of Baylor University, I brought him up on the screen for the audience that don't know about him. he was a defensive lineman out of Baylor University, and he was going to be the #1 pick, or at least in the top 7 for sure, in 2016. He got caught up in a case as well. And I could read that to the audience, and then we'll return to what Sigma Jones is saying, because I don't see, here's the thing. I'm a man who dates a lot of women across the United Nations, right? Mm-hmm. I've always been like that since high school. Dating Middle Eastern women, Asian women, mixed women, black women. I love them all, right? But I don't never want to give black men and younger black men that are coming up the idea that, well, if you go date a woman of a different culture, that's going to be a savior. No.
Oh, no.
The thing that I recommend is that you come up with a strategy for what you are really looking for in a woman. I know that I look at admiration in a woman. She needs to admire me. She needs to be attractive. She needs to be cooperative and feminine in her nature. So I look for traits. And I always tell men the admiration part is important, because the respect and admiration from a woman is where she can check herself. So for me, that's the kind of filters that I put on any woman. I don't care what her race is. But I know that's not the comment that you're trying to make. I've had a lot of discussion with you, but the way you say it to these dudes out here, they will take it as like, oh, well, that Sigma Jones just told me that I can just go.
Yeah, let me kind of correct that back statement.
But I want to read this real quick for the audience. So Sean Oakman said the first thing he intends to do after his acquittal on sexual assault charge Thursday is to get a new tattoo. But he hopes his next stop is with a team.
It's going to be about.
Yeah, I don't know this whole tattoo shit. I don't know what he's talking about with that. But he says his next stop is with a team in the NFL. Jurors, so his case went to jury. So unlike the Brian Banks case, he did a full jury and he was acquitted. Because remember, Brian Banks did a plea deal. So jurors in Waco's 19th State District Court deliberated about 2 hours before finding a 26-year-old former Baylor University football player not guilty of sexually assaulting a 22-year-old graduate student at his off-campus duplex in April 2016. Oakman.
2 hours is pretty quick.
Go ahead.
2 hours is pretty quick.
Yeah, that was pretty quick, for real.
Yeah.
He said that. Yeah. But think about it, though. So the case took 3 years, though. It took 3 years for his jury trial and his decision, man. He lost. He was the #1 pick, man. We already talked.
Or he could have took a plea deal and his ass would still be locked the fuck up.
That's the kind of options that men are given these days. Lose your career or your freedom, one or the other. So it says that he cried and hugged his attorneys while his family screamed loudly, burst into tears, and praised Jesus when visiting Judge Michael Snipes read the not guilty verdict. So he turned down a plea offer that they tried to get Brian Banks type of deal. But even his plea bargain was not as bad as Brian Banks, because Brian Banks was guaranteed to do 6 years in prison and 5 years house arrest no matter what. In the case of Sean Oakman, he was going to get probation, and he still turned it down, which was smart. And he insisted that the woman was lying or whatnot. So, yeah. But he was going to be the #1 pick. So think about what I said earlier. Brian Banks was going to be a top 10 pick. He lost 17 to 38 million. But Oakman possibly lost 50 million. Because he's 26 now. And in the NFL, it don't work like that. The NFL is, first off, if anyone understands sports, they know that it's hard to take years off and come back. Even if you was at the top of your game and you take just 1 year off from playing basketball or football, man, that shit is like you age in dog years in terms of athleticism, man. It's just certain way that professional athletics is that when you take years off, you lose a skill set. It's just hard to explain to people that don't know sports, but those that know sports understand what I'm talking about. So this man is 26 years old now. He lost 3 years of development. Now he is sitting there playing like arena football, trying to get to the NFL as a 26-year-old going on 27. And this is what has been taken from these men. And no one says anything. All they want to do is do a celebration after the person is exonerated. You don't hear no talk about the accuser. You don't hear no talk about the sick. Like, oh, praise the Lord. He's been exonerated. What the fuck is y'all talking about? This is a system. These are human beings that have accused this man and taken their freedom from them. We should be focused on stopping the accusations and putting severe penalties on the accuser, and then putting penalties on the people that allowed this to happen themselves and making them liable for lawsuits as well. But I'll get a mic back to you, Sigma Jones. I know you want to correct yourself.
Oh, not at all. I was going to say, just a correction that definitely a guy should be looking, you know, for someone that fits his program, wherever that program might be. Don't just go based on, you know, a culture or whatnot. No, you find someone who's about you, about your program, and get with it. But King Sigma, I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall, there was an article a while back where there was this feminist, an Indian feminist, and she was giving her opinion on the Me Too movement. And I have to see if I could dig it up. But in this article, she was saying how she regrets that the Me Too movement started in America because other countries, seeing where this started, you know, they catch on to the bull crap quickly before America does. So they knew that this Me Too movement is just, you know, a witch hunt, be as it may. And to me, we're just now, the system is just now starting to catch on to what's going on with the Me Too movement, and they're acting accordingly. Now, unfortunately for black men, it's still not a safety where, you know, you can be, as I say, be relaxed. You should never be relaxed as a black man. And so in the case of Sean Oakman, you know, like you was talking about with sports, if there was ever an equivalent of the wall when it comes to females, there's an athletic wall for men when it comes to athletics.
Right.
There's only a certain time that a man can be at his prime when it comes down to athletics. Once he's past that prime, no matter what, most teams are not going to be, you know, trying to invest a lot of money in those type of athletes. Like, we see a perfect example of that. You could look at a guy like Adrian Peterson. Now, we all know how Adrian Peterson was when he first came into the league back in 2007.
Right.
And he was running amok. But once he tore his I think it was his ACL, and once he also got suspended for that incident that happened outside the field, his value went down. And as his value went down,
and you know,
teams don't.
He was just in the news because he's bankrupt. He's bankrupt.
Yeah, and there you go. And so,
I mean, something's wrong with these.
Once you go past the athletic, go ahead.
I was saying something's wrong with it. Something is really wrong. You know how David Carroll says that, like, Black Americans have become the laughing stock of the world. I can see why he says that, man. You got someone like Adrian Peterson you just mentioned. He was just in the news because he's bankrupt.
Yeah.
I just don't get. I don't know what's wrong with these Black
and
Americans.
There's a reason.
Something is wrong, man. Go ahead, Sigma.
And there's a reason why, but there's a reason why too. Like, I was watching the recent news about, you know, this with these athletes getting all these money, especially in the NFL and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you're getting all this money, but you still have this cloud over your head where 78% of NFL players, once they retire, go bankrupt. Like, yeah, you get all this money up front, but in the end, you still lose it because you've never been taught how to be economically stable.
Yep. I mean, that's the truth, man. And you would think that they would be teaching financial wealth in high school. It shouldn't even be something that you should wait to do as in college. There should be like a requirement for high school graduates to take like a semester or two of personal financial wealth management, where they learn about credit scores, credit cards, budgets, checking accounts. They don't teach they don't teach them practical things anymore. So that's why you have that kind of situation. It's a very sad situation.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly. Like, and you know. Oh, go ahead.
So I had brought up Sean Oakman. You know, you had the situation with Sean Oakman, and, you know, 3 years fighting this case. Now he's going to be 27. He's playing in like the Arena League or something right now, trying to get to the NFL. You got Brian Banks in his mid-30s now. That's the point when even the best Hall of Famers retire. So he got signed to 1 year on the practice squad. I mean, these guys are losing everything, and it's like other men in society are saying nothing. It's very few people that are bringing policy that would make these accusers go to prison for the same time they're accusing these men of, just because of a lie. I mean, the situation with Brian Banks, This was a Black American woman. Her mother, they just made up a lie for no reason. That's the thing I'm trying to understand. Like, it was not even like it was like a situation where, like, let's say a girl got cheated on by a dude and to try to blackmail him. It wasn't even like no situation like that with a lot of these accusers. It's just they just was on some. I'm accused.
I believe that is true. Yeah.
Well, so what I'm trying to get to is what do you guys? What would make someone just out of nowhere? Just, I'm gonna accuse you. Complete lie. I don't. What kind of human? What I'm saying is like, what kind of human beings are we producing in America in 2019? That's what I'm trying to get. What kind of children are being raised out here, man?
No, I mean, dude, you have to understand, man, that if a person was assisted by this by their parents, do you really think this is the only thing that they've assisted their child in doing? They probably did far worse than this. Far worse. I mean, that's why when we in the military, we investigated these type of things. We waited a long time to be sure that it wasn't rife with emotion and all this type of nonsense. And yeah, some of those people did break down and they did turn around and say that they were wrong and they're sorry. Yeah, and then we locked their ass up and took stripes and shit. Because something like that could destroy an entire military career. One bad performance report can stop you from getting promoted for 4 or 5 years. And there ain't no do-overs, even if you're innocent. So that's why you got to be real careful with this stuff, man, because we don't have a culture of consequences in the United States.
Exactly.
That's the problem. Because most men think that letting women off the hook is some type of standard of masculinity. As you can see, all these relationship experts, all they talk about is giving women what they want, and all of a sudden you get what you want. But that ain't how that works. It's not an equitable system for you to be giving away everything. That just tells you it's not an equitable system up front. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to operate in such a way to where you are putting yourself at the maximum level of protection, and you have to think about it every single damn day, because they're thinking about it every single damn day about how to take shit away from you. And these prosecutors do not give a lily fuck about you. They should be brought up on charges too, because they're just as at fault for believing this shit than it is the person who's reporting this shit. Just as responsible, if not more responsible, for not doing their due diligence and shit. And then, you know, the cases be sealed and you can't really look at it, and there's really no commission to like look at these cases and shit. That should tell you, if there's no way to have checks and balances, that should let you know that there's something really wrong with that process, period.
Yeah, it's a very, the whole court system, even the Supreme Court, they said that a lot of the way that the states are running these plea bargain things, schemes and strategies is unconstitutional. But what has happened is that none of the political parties or the people themselves have put any pressure to change anything, because look at, like you were just saying, the victims in these situations is the man. So to them, it's like, it's okay sacrificing men as long as they can protect these females. It's insane. It's really crazy at this point. So it's like the whole equality of the law, justice is blind. All these principles have been thrown out the window. You literally got outlets like CNN, MSNBC. They're letting these radical feminists on television. They're saying things like "believe all women," even though "believe all women" goes against everything that is laid out in the U.S. Constitution, everything that's supposed to be fundamental about equality before the law. And no one questioned these outlets. Shouldn't they be liable for something for being able to promote this kind of propaganda? It's like we in a society now where we've thrown out ethics, we've thrown out reason, we've thrown out morality. The only thing that matters is money and ratings. And what I saw something that in the news that threw me so for a loop. I mean, this is when I don't know if any of you guys watched the Democratic debate last night, but I chose not to. I was going to watch the Democratic debate. Then I said, this would be 3 hours of non-constructive time, right? Because I saw something right.
I have to come back. Can I come back? Because I have to reweigh.
Oh, go ahead, MOT. I'll be on for like another 30 minutes. So I'm sitting here looking at this whole advertising for the Democratic debate, and I saw something that just my jaw just hit the desk, man. Bernie Sanders was sitting down doing a one-on-one interview with Cardi fucking B. This woman has been accused of raping men, drugging men, and having transsexuals rape her victims. And she was just indicted on some kind of assault charges because she had some strippers beat up recently. So she's under indictment right now, but then she has this trail of rapes and violence against men. And fucking Bernie Sanders is sitting down doing a one-on-one interview with her, and then she comes out saying, I support Bernie Sanders. This is what we're
man, look, nah, man.
You got the mic, MLT, go ahead.
It's just disgusting, man, because the chick's not even black, but she's quote unquote lobbying for the black vote. Like, that's the type of clown stuff that we have going on, man. It's like, dude, in other countries, when they do debates, it's boring. There's no way in the hell they would have any type of movie star or anything be involved with politics. You'll get laughed out of the room because it's serious business. But in our country, man, we put these frauds and clowns like Front Street and have them out there like they're running stuff, man. And it's just bad. It's bad for everything. And it doesn't make any sense.
And see, I guess I'm trying to figure this shit out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a millennial. So I'm trying to figure all of it out. Like my whole goal right now is trying to figure out how Black Americans got in this condition. Because when I was a kid and I'm looking at my grandma, they wasn't going through this type of shit. You got a Cardi B, this a woman that's talked about being a prostitute, a woman who has done all kinds of felonies, a woman that is under indictment right now, potentially going to prison next year. And you got the Democratic Party saying, we're going to have her come to the DNC convention. We're going to have her sitting down with the president. I mean, how did we get here? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do we fall to this low point as Black men, as Black people in America, where we got the lowest of lowest that are given to speak for us, that are our spokespeople? How did this shit happen? How do we become so powerless even though we're 40 million deep in this country? This is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, it's very easy. There's a lot of dudes who conspired to make sure that the women ran stuff, man. That's what happened. There's a lot of dudes. I can see right.
You kind of bargain, MOC.
It's very simple. If you're over the age of 45 and you're still talking about women, you're one of the enemies of it. One of the enemies of progress. And you always have.
That, you bored. Could you repeat that? You were bored.
Why anybody advanced age should talk about something so time talk, right? But in other communities, they have other people who speak for them. And it's very clear. It's like, okay, if those people were focused on girls and the gang units were sweeping the neighborhoods, so who's actually in charge and who's actually responsible for this, right? Because there has to be somebody who's responsible.
Bro, MOT, yeah, they got this buffoon, Charlemagne the God, right? This dude just got Me Too'd a couple months ago. So the leftists got like this, they got like the little carrot, they got the stick over him, right? So he is in a situation where the fucking female accused him of rape or something. Now they got him all on CNN and MSNBC talking this, talking that, as if he's some kind of spokesman for Black America. No credentials. He's not a politician, a lawyer, a businessman, just a radio disc jockey. But this is who you have speaking for you as Black men. I just don't understand how we got to this point, man, where Charlemagne the God, Cardi B speaks for Black men and Black women. This is where we're at, man.
Man, it's just the love of pussy. That's all I can say. The love of pussy. They try to say the love of money is the root of all evil, but I say the love of pussy is the root of all evil.
Yeah, I have come to that conclusion. Being on discovering these YouTube spaces, man, I've learned a lot, man. Like one of the things I learned, and this is a fact, for the average Black American man, you cannot do business with them and you could never trust them, period. I'm sorry to say that, but for most of the Black men out here, you can't trust them. You can't depend on them. You would be a fool to get into any kind of business enterprise with them. It's a lot of Black men in America that they've given up. I think they've checked out. I think a lot of Black American men have checked out of manhood. They just waiting to die. And in the meantime, let me see how much pussy I can get before I die. I really believe that. I think they just totally checked out, man, because there's no other way to explain how Black Americans could have got to a point where Charlemagne the God and Cardi B are being promoted as a spokesman without any kind of revolt from the rank and file Black men and Black women. So that means that they agree, or they would boycott all those networks. They would be talking about cancel Cardi B, cancel Charlemagne the God. They would be on it. So it shows that Black American rank and file, they've become so submerged in the celebrity and paparazzi culture that they can't even fight back no more, because it's like the media and the elites have figured out exactly all the psychological triggers of the rank and file Black man and Black woman, and they just know how to pander to them in a digital world that will keep them distracted from any kind of real agenda or controlling their narrative or actually building wealth and competing. And they've mastered it or something. Because when I saw that, that's when I was like, okay, I'm not watching this. I was just going to watch the Democratic debate just for fun. But I couldn't even watch it for fun, because when I saw what I saw, I was like, well, that tells me all I need to know. If you got Bernie Sanders sitting now doing what he considers a serious interview with Cardi B. And I'm like, this is supposed to be this is a guy who wants to be the next president of the United States. This is ridiculous. Yeah. This is clown world shit. This is Banana Republic type shit that we're on right now in modern America. When you got Bernie Sanders sitting now with a woman that's under indictment right now and guilty of all kind of crimes. I mean, raping men, bro. Raping men and having them raped by transsexual. Do you understand the psychological damage that it would do to a heterosexual man to get drugged? So he goes home with this stripper, gets drugged and robbed, and then finds out that he got raped by another man. I mean, think about that from just a psychological standpoint, the damage that would be done to the victim of that. And you got this slut, disgusting woman, Cardi B, walking around and then being able to do interviews with presidential candidates. This is the lowest level that I actually believe that the level that Black America has sunk to in the aggregate might be lower than the slavery days, bro. Because they at least could say we was enslaved, but now what's your excuse now? Jim Crow is overturned. Slavery was over. You doing most of these are self-inflicted wounds, bro. Self-inflicted.
I honestly, man, I believe we haven't even hit rock bottom yet. What we're seeing now is just a manifestation of years that have plagued the Black community, the so-called Black community of America, with the welfare state and feminism. And that's why lately I've been advocating for brothers, when you have a chance, just travel. Take a break from America, go overseas, and most certainly don't go overseas looking for women. That's not the point I'm getting at. The point I'm getting at is go overseas to get away from American culture for a bit. In fact, just to get away from Western society overall, because we need a healthy dose of realism. We need a healthy dose of seeing a world that is not plagued by insanity. And to me, I don't even pay too much attention to stuff like CNN and debates and all that stuff, because it's just nothing but propaganda. They're just there to put in whatever type of message that the elites want everyone to know about. And so for me, guys just need to get away from the social media platforms and all for a bit and just go out and experience the world. And not just in America, but outside America as well. Because the stupidity that's going on can definitely drive a man insane. And like you just pointed out, any man who has been psychologically damaged from some assault, whether it be a physical assault or a sexual assault, believe me, it goes unnoticed, but it creates a troublesome current that, to me, you're seeing a lot of male violence going on more so today than you did back in the past.
Yeah, they didn't have mass shootings back in before the I remember, if I'm correct, that like that Columbine mass shooting, that was like the first one that happened in like 99 or 2000. And now it's just like it's a daily occurrence in America. But before that, why weren't there all these mass shootings back before 1999? Why was 1999, 2000 the beginning of all these mass shootings? Why weren't there all these mass shootings before 1999? Has anyone ever asked that question? The culture went for a wrong turn after 1999, I believe. After that 9/11, combined with the 2008 economic recession, the election of Barack Obama and his Rainbow Coalition agenda, America has not recovered from all those three events. To be honest with you, it just hasn't.
No, I agree. To me, the mere fact that America got complacent and felt like they can do no wrong, and especially like you said after the 90s and all, that's when America started going downhill. And there's really no point in trying to say America is the best place to live in. I mean, you got these immigrants coming in, but they're only coming in, just to have some sort of economic standpoint. Mm-hmm. When the wealthy are moving out, that's a telltale sign that your economy is going down.
Yeah, man. It seems like it's like the perfect storm. I keep telling these cats, man, about the fact that the trap that Black America is in, and it's no joke. When you look at the economic situation, the fourth industrial age, the lack of concern for Black Americans by the political parties, man. Mm-hmm. It's a very tight situation because the clock is running out, man. The clock, it might already have ran out. It's one of them situations. So I just keep trying to have the kind of conversations that interest me. When I look at the Brian Banks thing, that interests me. Cases like Brian Banks, that's the kind of stuff I want to share with brothers, analyze it from a layered viewpoint, looking at the political ramifications, the legalities, what it means socially, and give that information to brothers that may have not seen that information was available, so that it will quote and inspire them to go think about these things for themselves and come to their own conclusion. Because that's the only way that we can fix this shit, is that brothers actually start looking at all these different areas of the society and where they stand in
it. And that's why, King Sigma, I am definitely a pro-individual when it comes down to doing what's best for an individual versus a community. Because in this day and age, especially for Black men, you are your only ally. There's no group that's got their hands up saying, oh, I'll be the ally to the Black man. No, the only ally to the Black man is the Black man himself. And with that being said, as a pro-individual, you have to make sure that whatever endeavors that you're going on, that you're putting yourself in prime position to keep yourself together in no matter what type of economic system, no matter what nation, government, that you're looking out for yourself. That's why with my videos over at blackavenger.tv, I made sure to reiterate a statement that my video is not for every brother. Not every brother is going to have the mindset to do SYSBM. It's only for the brothers who are on the fence about it, but still, need some more guidance, and mainly for brothers who are already doing it. For the ones who are not on board as far as putting themselves first and having a pro-individual mindset, those individuals can't be saved. And so it's pointless trying to focus on those individuals, whereas the ones who have that mindset already, they know who to find, they know where to go, and as you can see already, like you pointed out a while back, the current Negro manosphere is starting to be divided in different sets,
Yeah.
and different, people are going to have their own little groups and everything, which to me is good. Have your own community, so that way there's no clash between different mindsets and thinking. But at the end of the day, you definitely have to make sure that you have that open mindedness to see the world for what it is and make decisions that will put you in the best position possible moving forward.
Yeah, man. I was just looking at a comment from the brother DK Phantom, and he was saying how he's planning to become an expatriate in the future. And it's ironic that he was just saying, because I was just thinking about that because I had read something, like some of these countries like Japan and other countries that, bro, let me explain to you how bad the situation is in Japan and how desperate the females are over there. There's a Japanese company, bro, that came out with a pair of headphones that mimic the arms of a man.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So you heard it. So yeah, they got like these headphones that are shaped like a man's arms, and then they got things where like women are hiring boys and men to cuddle with them, and they're paying them big time money just to come over because the men over there are so much into this herbivore lifestyle that they don't want nothing to do with the females like that. So the women are so desperate over there in Japan, and Japan itself is so desperate to increase the birth rate. They come in with all kind of tax schemes. Companies are producing products that mimic the other sex, but the shit is crazy, man. They call it like comfort boys. So like there's these lonely women that will hire someone like you and I to come lay with them just to lay with them and pay you like $500. So when I hear brothers saying things like that, they want to like expatriate, man, I say go for it, bro. Because dual citizenship is your friend.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, man. It's gotten too bad. Like it's just got. It comes to a point where you just can't take it anymore. Like when I did the research for Brian Banks, I mean, it was just like really just my blood was boiling the more I read because I didn't know about Brian Banks. I don't, you know how this is one of those things that you heard about years ago because he was a top football player, but you didn't pay no attention to it, right?
Yeah.
But when you actually, because the way that the news do it, they'll give you a headline, but they don't give you no details. They'll make it like the person's guilty. So like Malcolm X said, the media can make you think an innocent person is guilty and a guilty person innocent, right? And they're very crafty at that shit. But we've gotten better at refuting them because of the rise of social media and spaces like this. But before, man, it was hard as hell to refute the media because there weren't no other alternatives to the mainstream media. But now all these other alternative platforms have arisen and people can create their own blogs or whatever. But as I read more and more about his case and how evil of a people that you have to be to do that to a person, man, I just say, it's deeper than just men and women. It's a cultural thing. It's like there's a rot and an evilness that's promoted in Western culture that's destroying all ethical codes. That's why you got things like pedophilia on the rise in America with the whole Jeffrey Epstein case. That dude was one of the most powerful men in America, one of the richest men in America, connected to the most powerful people, his own little island, molesting 13, 12, 11-year-old girls and shit. And he was
and you know what?
Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, all kinds of motherfuckers he was connected to, but he was allowed to do that. So what I'm saying is that I think America as a culture, if you was thinking about it as a body, it's like a body that is in like terminal illness type of thing. Yeah. If you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. Like I think of America as a culture, as a zeitgeist, as like being a body that it has cancer in almost every limb, and that if something doesn't change, it's gonna just collapse on itself. And I know I might be being extreme, but that's how I feel. Like my intuition tells me that when I look out at the society, as if there is no ethical standards anymore. And I think you need ethical standards for a society to thrive. I really believe that.
I truly believe America as a whole, we're past the point of no return. Any type of ethical mindset, moral standards and all, that was gone, I would say within the past 10, 20 years. So
Well, look,
America,
did you see that whole thing with Mario Lopez, the dude from Saved by the Bell, how they was attacking him in the media yesterday?
I saw a little article on it, but I haven't read most details on it. But yeah, I heard a little bit of it.
Well, so what happened with Mario Lopez? So for you guys that don't know, Mario Lopez is an actor. He used to be on this show called Saved by the Bell. He still does like hosting shows or whatever on TV. I don't watch the shit, so I don't know what shows, but he's a conservative by the standards of Hollywood. And he was being interviewed on one of these shows, and he didn't let them censor his opinions. He said that there's something wrong with parents that are doing sex changes on their children and not letting their children become adults and make their own decision, because you have this movement in America where they're doing sex changes on kids as young as 6 years old. And he was pushing back against that, saying that there's something wrong with parents that would do that, and that it's immoral, and that parents shouldn't be able to change the sex of their children just because their kid went to a classroom and the teacher introduced them to topics like transsexuality and homosexuality, and the kid comes home and is like, I want to be a boy, or I want to be a girl. And he just made that comment, a basic comment that 10 years ago, everyone in America would have agreed with the shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But because of the way that the media controls the public conversation, they will try to make you believe that everyone supports that shit, even though the data that came out recently says most people don't support you forcing that kind of lifestyle on children.
And you know something I definitely want to bring up too, because I'm definitely a history junkie. Now, you look at Hitler and the Nazis back in the day, and how this small little group, I think at the time when Hitler founded the group, it only consisted of maybe 16 guys at a bar and whatnot.
Yeah, it was just like a bar.
Yeah, it was just like a hangout at a bar. But this small little group was able to literally mind control a whole country and get them into a war that really on the outset they didn't stand a chance. But the reason they were able to do that was because of propaganda. And at the time, the only technology that was available was your radio, and television was just slowly starting to catch on. But now we live in a day and age where social media, you can do your own research and see whether what the news, the radios, the TV, whatever they're saying is correct. And I think that's why in today's time, it's harder for these organizations to catch on to the public than back in the day, because like you were saying earlier, it's harder to control the media when you only had two technologies that was available at the time. This is why I see technology as both a blessing and a curse. It's definitely a curse when people will put their dysfunctions out there, and now, you know, something that you haven't done as a black man, but because another black man done something wrong, you're judged for that. But at the same time, being that is also a blessing, it's harder to be disillusioned or disenfranchised if you're not willing to seek the truth out for yourself. When you're willing to seek the truth out for yourself, propaganda is going to have a hard time getting into your mind and trying to control the narrative. And like you just said, that's why if you were to talk to a lot of these parents today, they will probably tell you, no, I'm not down with this whole transgender change and everything. But the media will try to make it seem like everybody is. And that's where social media comes into play, to where, no, if you actually talk to different groups throughout the entire digital realm, they will tell you they're not down with it.
Well, they did a survey. GLAAD did a survey that they do every year, and they were shocked. Their last survey showed that like 75% of millennials was against that lifestyle. They were shocked, man. Yeah. That threw GLAAD off because it just came out like a month ago. I'm not gonna bring it up because my computer, when I'm doing my screen shares, it's acting foolish. But
yeah,
they did something, and it showed like 75% of millennials were against the aggressive encroachment of the alphabet society on them. That shocked them.
And it's something you mentioned, because there was a recent survey that I saw. Once I find the article, I may try to find it and send you the link and everything. But it actually shows that the millennials and the next generation coming up are actually more conservative now than the previous generations, like your Generation Xers and the Boomers. And to me, I think that's a tell sign that there's definitely an undercurrent shift that's happening to where, well, especially for millennials, we see the dysfunction that's going on and we want no part of it. And the younger generation are seeing the same thing and they're acting accordingly. So to me, I think when the propaganda realize that their messages are not getting across, they're trying so hard to, so to speak, paint this picture in your mind. But to me, with social media being at play, it's hard when you can do your own research and see for yourself, no, that's not what they're talking about. No, I don't see it the way they see it.
That's what's killing them. See, that's what's killing the ruling power elites, is the fact that people have access to this information themselves. And that's one of the reasons why the digital social media platforms are working so hard to censor constructive and logical conversation, because they have become the Nazis, right? So these left wingers are just as much the Nazis as the right wingers are. See, they're both the same to me.
Yep, same bird.
Yeah, they're the same wings on the same bird to me, like the left wing, the right wing. They're both about controlling the resources, controlling the conversation, and controlling the social body. They both have the same agenda. They just want to do it in a different way. You know, I would have never thought that it would be the people that call themselves quote unquote liberals and progressives would be the ones that are leading the charge on censorship of language. See, if this would have been 20 years ago, it would have been the right wingers that were trying to censor freedom of speech. And the liberals were promoting it. But now it's the right wingers trying to protect free speech, and it's the left. It's just like America is just a cesspool of deception and ignorance at this point, man. I just, like I said, man, when I saw Bernie Sanders yesterday being interviewed by Cardi B, two things came to my mind. One, how disgusting it was in itself, but then I was like, think about it. So you got a presidential candidate sitting down with this prostitute criminal, but she didn't even have her husband there. A black man, a black American man. He wasn't even sitting. It wasn't like Bernie Sanders was sitting down with her and Offset as if they were some kind of power couple. He was just sitting down with her. As if he ain't even in the, man. So the shit is so deep, just like the rottenness of the politics, the economics. You know, you got JP Morgan. They got a whole 1.5 billion ship of cocaine and heroin they just got caught with on one of their assets. You know, so it's like the rot is just so deep. I don't even know how you solve the problem anymore, because all the institutions in America are rotten. The school system's rotten. They're the ones that are programming your children instead of, you know, it used to be that the point in going to school was to gain practical skills, to learn logic, mathematics. No, we don't want to talk about that. We want to focus on talking to your kid about sex, and then more and more sex, and transforming their sex. How the fuck did we get? That's what I'm trying to figure out, Brother Sigma. Like, I just don't know how it happened so quickly. It's like I closed my eyes and I woke up and I was in clown world, bro. It used to be you went to school to learn math, shit like that. That ain't what they go to school to learn anymore. Oh, that's secondary, or no, that don't matter. This social justice warrior politics is what matters. Yeah. And then there a lot of these young people are rejecting this shit. That's what's so crazy. They're rejecting it. Yeah. So they're trying, like these Gen Xers, right? Because remember, a lot of these Gen Xers are the parents of the Zennials. That's not even the boomers. So the boomers started the shit, but it's a lot of Gen Xers that are the ones that are like behind this rainbow coalition politics. Those is Gen Xers forcing on their children. How do you look at a 6-year-old kid and that don't children? You were 6 years old. Ain't no fucking 6 years old thinking about no sex, man.
Oh no.
And you you teaching these kids all these unlimited sexual deviances, And then the kid comes on like, Mom, I want to be a boy or I want to be a girl. And then you got a parent that is seriously like, well, the school told him that, so I guess that's what he wants. Let me go get this $100,000 paid for by taxpayers transformation. This shit is sick, man. And it's like, I'm looking at it happen. I'm like, damn, am I the only one that sees this shit?
Dude, I don't know if you remember that article that came out earlier this year talking about Dwayne Wade, Gabriel Union, and their son.
Yep.
That article, man, turned my stomach. Because I said to myself, wow, here it is. This is your own son, your own flesh and blood. And he's pretty much just come out that he wants to be a girl.
And that kid's like 10 years old, man.
10 years old, man. 10 years old. And I sometimes I think to myself, like, man, if I do have kids, it most likely would not be here.
Not
in
I
America.
have to agree with you on that. I've thought about that. And the more I be thinking about it, man, I cannot see myself bringing a child into this current society, man.
No.
I just can't, bro. I got to go somewhere else. Because you can't, even if you try your hardest, you can't protect them from the propaganda.
No.
I looked at that situation with Dwayne Wade, and it don't even make sense on surface, but from a behind the scenes, it makes sense. Because think about, okay, so he does this whole publicity stunt with the Rainbow Coalition and his 10-year-old son during the same time that he's retiring. That don't even make sense. Like, this man is in his last season doing his retirement tour, and then at the end of his NBA season, they say, oh yeah, Dwayne Wade is at the Pride Fest because his 10-year-old son is a homosexual. This shit don't even make sense. Then 2 months later, now remember, if you just look at it from the surface, it's one way, but then think about it. A pro athlete is supposed to represent American masculinity within the terms of America. They look at athletes as the highest form of masculinity, right?
That's right.
So then it's almost like a public castration that they're doing of black men psychologically. Because then you got this dude, Lil Nas X, the same month, he comes out talking about he's a homosexual. So every time I look up, and I'm like, damn, I'm the only one that's seeing this shit. Every time I look up, there's a black man on TV being castrated. So then you got the situation just the other day with the CNN reporter,
Victor Blackwell.
Victor Moistwell.
Yeah.
He on fucking CNN crying, literally shedding tears because Donald Trump said that Baltimore is a rat-infested dump. This dude,
man, if I was there, I would have got out of my seat and punched him real hard till he, I don't know, because I would have told him, look, man, you are making a fool out of yourself.
Then they would have had
all
you
black men
for a hate crime, saying that you did a hate crime.
Well, it is what it is.
So that's why I was telling you before you and I had this conversation. We were talking politics, and I told you, like, for me, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. The only way I can understand any black man voting for a Democrat in 2019, the only way I can understand you support Democrats is if you know for sure they're gonna give you like a $250,000 cash check. Now, why do I say a cash check? Because I know that for most thinking brothers, you get them $250,000, they're out of this motherfucker. I've talked to brothers about this, and they've told me, dude, if you gave me $250,000 cash right now, that's like $1 million in some countries that they enjoy going to. They said they're gone. That's the only way I can see you as a man saying, hey, I support Democrats. But because to me, it's like with the Republicans don't even need black male vote, right? Nope. So they're indifferent to us. So I'm not understanding how the black man got in this situation, because the Republicans don't need your vote. The Democrats disregard your vote because they just say, oh, the black dudes will follow the black women. And this is how we got to this position that we're in as black men. 2019, and we are not needed at all. They already, like I said earlier, coffins, prison cells, on that sports field, or in a dress. That's what I think. That's now.
Or microphone.
There you go. So
microphone or playing some instrument. That's all they really see.
So we'll just say dancing a jig. So we'll say, black male in America, it seems that the identity has been dancing a jig, sitting in a prison cell, laying in a coffin, or wearing a dress is what they want you doing.
Yeah.
How did you get here, black man? How did you get to the point where that's how they're defining you in America now? In a coffin, in a prison cell, dancing a jig, or wearing a fucking dress. This is my people. How did we get here, bro? 2019.
Because unfortunately, a mindset from a lot of these Negroes is pussy is everything. That's what I'm really starting to understand. That unfortunately, a lot of brothers have been whipped by the vag to the point to where they just don't know how to reason. They just don't know how to think critical. As long as it gets them to the pussy, that's all they care.
Yeah, and being in these spaces really educated me on that. Because I've always, surrounded myself with brothers that I consider to be what I call urban renaissance men. These are dudes that they can play good sports, they're smart, they get plenty of bitches. So that's just what I'm used to. That's what I've always grown up around. My brothers is like that, and I've told people honestly, my brothers are street dudes. I'm the one that said fuck that street life, because I saw too many of my relatives going to prison, and when I was in a scared straight situation where I went and visited one of my uncles in prison when I was like 8, 9 years old for the first time. And I said, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? My brothers got into that shit, but I said, I'm good. I'm going the other route. So you got this situation where we're just in this bubble and it's popping all around us. And the only thing that a lot of black men can cling to is pussy. Like you were just saying, the only thing they feel uncompetitive in economics. They feel uncompetitive in politics. They feel non-competitive in all these other areas of activity except for entertainment and sex. I really believe that. Like that's the only area where the rank and file black man feels confidence is when it comes to entertainment and sex. So I've been saying for the year that I've been around here is that this is the kind of culture that the baby boomers and the Gen Xers passed down to us was a big buck culture. So I just call it big buck culture, thug and thought culture, black redneck culture, however you guys want to say it. But to me, what we got from the black men of the baby boomer generation, passed down to the Gen Xers, passed to the millennials, is big buck culture and thought culture. That's all they left us.
Yeah, and this is why at this point, like I said before, I'm pro individual, because if you try to get collective black men to go in a more productive environment or try to get them to go in a productive direction, they will fight you tooth and nail. Because if it doesn't get them the vag, they don't want to be a part of it. And to me, that's why, my time, being around YouTube and everything and such, be honest, if it wasn't for blackavenger.tv, I wouldn't be making videos, talking about the importance of what you talk about, self-actualizations and being about your business.
Man, make sure you put your link in the chat for everybody so that they can come check out your channel at Black Avenger as well.
I'm not near my computer at the moment, but definitely, man. My homepage is there on blackavenger.tv and such. But the point that I'm mainly getting at is this, that a lot of Negroes just are not going to be safe. And when I look at this situation, like with Brian Banks, Sean Oakman, even like a recent incident that happened in Utah, where this brother, I forgot what country he's from, but he just got arrested and indicted for murdering a white girl. And I'm thinking to myself, like, was it worth it? Was it worth killing a female for some vag and such, when you could have been more productive and actually unleash your potential and be a much bigger and better person? But because you were chasing after pussy, that's all that matters to you? It's stuff like that that just reminds me that you have to be pro-individual. Yeah. As far as the collective mindset, brothers are done. They're done.
See, that's why I think it's important that we be specific, because people misunderstand when we're talking about, because like they hear you say individual, and a lot of these people think that you mean that you're about to go lay up in the woods, and no.
Mm-mm.
When we talk about individually, we're talking about rational self-interest. mutual benefit. And when you hear someone like Sigma Jones talking, he's referring to what Mr. Neely Fuller has been saying. Now this is what really gets a lot of these pro-black simps. They will try to use Mr. Nelly Fuller's teachings or Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, but they're like what David Carroll say, this club of I only read 2 books and I think I know something. Mr. Neely Fuller has a show every Wednesday. He did a show this morning where he tells you that black people should not even be around each other unless they have a constructive purpose for being around each other. You never hear these Hotep communist simps talk about that. How do you are always quoting white supremacy, and the father of the white supremacy theory is fucking Neely Fuller. And he talks about it every week. And he says, black Americans should not even be around each other unless they have a constructive purpose for being in each other's vicinity. So when we talk about individualism, that's what we're referring to. That I refuse to engage in non-constructive behavior with black redneck individuals in closed spaces just because they have the same skin color as me. If you have a mutual benefit and a mutual interest for asking and requesting my time, then we can do something. But the people that go against rational self-interest and rational individualism, they don't ever talk about that part of the game. They don't talk about the part where they want your attention, join us, but they never tell you how it's going to constructively benefit you.
No.
Just you black. That's it. You black. You got black skin.
Yeah. That's all that matters to them at the end of the day is you black, your mama black, your daddy's black, so you should think along the same lines as me.
I disagree. I don't believe that they actually believe that. See, I used to think that until Brother Polite. He was, to me, he was a gift from the gods, because
that is true.
Once I saw what Brother Polite did to them fools, how he gaffed them, how he got them and gave them the bird, and he hit that road, and he said, "LA, here I come, baby. Here I come." As
soon as he got to Hollywood, what's the first thing he do?
Snow Bunny on deck. And here's the killer part. He paid for the hoes out there with the money he got from the single mothers and the ex-convicts out on the East Coast.
Exactly.
How cold of a move was that shit? Got the money from the single mothers for the ex-convicts and the other idiots, and then went straight out there and got him a fucking Becky. And made sure he found one that had a more of a slim, thick kind of body type as well. So for me, if he was like one of the main leaders of that movement, then that tells me what that movement about. It tells me what's at the heart of people like that. See, I'm at the point in my life where I can look at people like that with my popcorn in hand and just laugh. Because you're not going to be able to talk me. I done read all the books that these fools that should have read that they didn't read because they don't read. They might have read a couple passages or heard a prison lecture, but I've actually read Neely Fuller's books. I've actually read the ISIS papers. I've actually listened to all the lectures of John Henry Clark. And I came to the total opposite conclusion than what those fools came to. All I got from them dudes was that if you ain't focused on something constructive, stay the hell away from black rednecks. That's what they said. They have been they have destroyed Black America, the black redneck culture. So I don't know where these guys be coming up with like stealing these people's talking points, but then they don't have no depth and substance to what they're saying because they ain't actually read the material and really listened to the lectures. Dr. Francis West Crossing, think about how extreme her strategy was, working on black mental health. Why don't they talk about the fact that Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said that she don't think that black men and black women should have children until they're over 30? She said that they should only be focused on education until the age of 30 because they're so far behind the rest of society. Now, did Francis Cress Welsing not say that? Yes, she did.
Yes,
but you ain't gonna never hear the Hotep communists talk about the fact that Dr. Welsing said that she said that black men and black women, she ain't talking about every single one, but she's talking about because the condition of the average black man and black woman is so bad, they should only be focused on education, not religion, because she was so pissed off before she died, man. I remember her last interviews and how she attacked all these religious fanatics who every time after that shooting in South Carolina, where the white racists went into the church and killed all those people, she was saying that she was so sick and tired of black men and black women going on camera, crying and talking about Jesus forgive me, after someone just killed your damn child. She was so fed up. And I actually think that she died earlier than she would have just because of the stress that black men and black women caused her right around the time she died in 2015.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't, like, think about it. This woman was 80 years old and she spent her whole life. She dedicated her whole life to the community, to educating blacks. And in the course of her life, she saw black people in an 80-year period not go forward, but actually go backwards.
Yeah. Dude, it's amazing because you look at black society or so-called black society, and some of the basic things that's going on in other communities as far as advancements in careers, the standpoints as far as family structures and all, black people are just so behind. And you think to yourself, like, okay, we've passed laws that help to put more black folks in. Okay, perfect example. Look at Baltimore. You got a situation in Baltimore where you have black representatives, you have a black mayor, you have a black police chief, fireman. Every black person you could think of, Baltimore at some point in time had. Yet, look at the conditions that Baltimore is in. And y'all want to get upset when Trump's saying that that's a rat-infested environment? I mean, I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Man, they had a film on PBS last year talking about the rats in Baltimore and New York. Dude, they had a film. You all can go check it out. It's on PBS called Rat Film. And they were talking about the rat infestation of Baltimore and New York and cities like that. Man, there was a cat on there who had picked up one of these dead rats. Do you know that this rat was big as a fucking raccoon, bro? It was a city rat, but it was like big as a fucking raccoon, bigger than a cat, man.
Yeah.
But then they get triggered by the truth because Elijah Cummings, I'm one of my political things on my political agenda list is that I believe in term limits for congressional members.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a caucus in the U.S. House right now called the Term Limits Caucus. And the only Democrat in that caucus before he ran for president was Beto O'Rourke. That shocked me. It's all Republicans except there was one Democrat, Beto O'Rourke, that was in this caucus. Now, you never hear these mainstream politicians talk about the fact that there should be congressional term limits for senators and U.S. House of Representatives. And so to do it, the Supreme Court made the decision that they have to pass an amendment. This would be the 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And I'm telling men like yourself and those listening, get behind these kind of political policies, passing a term limits amendment that would cap senatorial terms to 2 terms, which is 12 years, and 6 terms for U.S. House of Representatives, which is 12 years. That's fair. So you could do 6 terms in the House up to 12 years, or you can do 2 senatorial terms up to 12 years, so that you can have turnover, new ideas, and you don't have these entrenched special interests that end up being just corporate fronts in DC. And that's why we have these problems, because no one wants to deal with what really is going to solve the problem. So Trump says something about the rat infestation, which is real, because they did a whole fucking documentary on it last year on PBS, and you got black people themselves showing video of all the rats everywhere. But no, Elijah Cummings, he's been in power for 24 fucking years, bro.
Yeah.
How do you get to sit in the House of Representatives for 12 terms? 12 consecutive terms, man. That was never the intention of the House of Congress. They expected, I've read the Federalist Papers. They thought there would be regular turnover. They never meant it to be corporate career politicians in there. And that's what we have. But yet, you black men and black women always talking about dumb shit. But you won't talk about things like the role of corporations in Congress and how your individual vote without an agenda means nothing. Only thing that matters in the modern government is wealth, organized wealth, or organized special interests. That's it. They've done so many studies on this at the highest levels to show that the laws that get passed, that are actually passed, reflect the concern and agendas of individual rich people, groups of rich people, and non-rich people that are organized, whether it be teachers unions, lawyers unions, whatever. That's how you get shit done. Black people in America have the largest union in America, Black America, because that is a status, that's a nationality, and it's also a potential voting bloc. But unfortunately, they might have blown that opportunity.
Yeah.
Because they let themselves become the second most populous minority. And in this, the way it's being set up, they're going to double the numbers of the Latinos and other, just from the racial mixing, the other category in 20 years is going to be bigger than the Black population, damn near. So I don't know, Brother Sigma. We're in a situation where for the average Black in America, I just don't see no way out for them, man. I just don't, because I'm looking at the reality. Like, they won't educate themselves on politics. They won't educate themselves on economics. They won't educate themselves on social hierarchies. They just won't do the work. All they want to do is talk about sex and entertainment. Bread and circuses is what they used to call it. They called it bread and circuses. But Black America is like a child that's 6 years old going to the circus for the first time, man. They're just dazed. They're in a daze from the media, the political shit that they feed them, and the sports. That's all they care about. And the sex part. That's all they care about, man. And unfortunately, I'm tired of talking about it. So I've reached. That's why I don't go on panels anymore, arguing with the succubi, and I don't go to people's panels that sit around arguing with the succubi because it's non-constructive.
No, I'm with you on that. Honestly, there's only a few people, you being one of them, that I really only converse with on YouTube.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate you brothers that come through, because I only been doing this for a month and a half. And I didn't even have no intentions on doing this. I just realized that the save yourself Black men and the passport bros are the future for most Black men that see reality, that see the writing on the wall. That I guarantee you, I'll make a bet with you that as this Black Manosphere 3.0 takes off next year, that it really takes off. Mark my words, man. It's gonna be very normal for brothers to just be talking about, I traveled to this place, I got my passport this year, I found me a way to do, we talk about the 6-6 plan and the 33 plan, where you do 6 months of working, 6 months of traveling, or the 3-3 plan, where you do 3 months of traveling, 3 months of working. You're gonna see brothers really talking a whole lot about that when we hit 2020. Watch what I tell you. Because a lot of brothers are fed up with sitting around arguing with succubus all day. It's non-productive, man.
No, it's a waste of time, waste of resource, and waste of energy. And not only does it goes to the Black succubus, but just American succubus as a whole. And I think for a lot of brothers, it's like, you know what? I could do much productivity focusing on things that I need to do than to be caught up in this bullcrap. Like you were saying, the debate last night, it didn't really cross my mind until you brought it up today. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I didn't really miss much, because you know what? I've seen the game that the Democrats run. They're not doing anything new.
Yeah.
And to me, why are we still arguing, about Trump being a racist and everything? And that's what gets me, because I said to myself, if Trump was really a racist, why is it that a guy like him, not to get off topic, but why would he listen to a guy like Byron Allen, who is on the verge of becoming one of the richest Black men in America?
No. Byron Allen, if he gets that loss, he'll be the richest Black man in the world.
Oh, okay. So
I looked it up because I was like, okay, he's already a billionaire. Where does he rank? So the richest Black person on the planet is an African dude, and his wealth is at 15 billion. If Byron Allen wins his lawsuit, which he almost guaranteed to win next year at the Supreme Court against Comcast, he's gonna get 20 billion. He'll be the richest Black man in the world. I mean, the richest man, and because the richest person is a man, not a Black female. So he will literally be the richest person on the planet, on the entire planet, if he wins that lawsuit against Comcast next year at the Supreme Court, which, based on what I read, he should.
Yeah. And what I'm getting at is Trump will listen to a guy like Byron Allen more so than he would a low-level Ku Klux Klan guy who is just a mechanic barely getting by, and all he talks about is racism every day. Like
Donald Trump used to be a Democrat, man.
And that's what gets me too, because it's like, people, y'all forget that before Trump ran for president, he was a Democrat for a very long time.
Don't you? He did an interview. I wish I could bring it up right now, but my computer's acting up. But I remember Trump did an interview, and he said if he ran for president, he'd run as a Republican. It was like, but you're a Democrat. He said, yeah, I know, because they're so dumb.
Yes.
This dude, Trump,
he said it himself that he loves the
base. He said base of the Republican Party is so dumb that I would rather run as a Republican, even though I'm a Democrat, because it would be easy to get elected because they're so dumb. And he got elected.
He said it himself. He loves the poorly uneducated. And people are just now realizing what he meant by that. It is laughable, man. Very laughable.
Yeah, so I'm indifferent to Trump. That's what the thing about me is. I'm indifferent to him. Like,
yeah,
I don't even. It's like my life. You know what I noticed over my life? Because my birthday is in August, and I always have time to reflect during the month of my birthday. I do a lot of reflection, and I was thinking, in my life, man, it ain't been no difference to me in the state that I live in and where I've been living, who's been the president. In fact, Trump had made me money this year, man. Yeah, because of his tax, because he made zero. I keep telling people, if you're doing business in capital gains, and you're doing sales of assets, and you do like a profit between like 1,000 to 40,000, you pay no taxes under Trump's tax laws, man. Cats don't understand how great that is. If you make a sale of a stock and it goes up, let's say that you bought a stock at 1,000 and it goes up to 41,000, you get to keep all 40,000 of it, no taxes under Trump's new laws, man.
Exactly.
So for me, I've actually benefited from Trump, even though I'm indifferent to him. And what I mean is that the kind of shit that he's passing, I've benefited from all his laws so far, but I'm a person who I'm indifferent to most politicians because I think that in general, their policies don't tend to affect me. So it's like the Democratic Party, they want to take my money from me.
Yeah.
Because they're on some socialist shit. They want to empower mediocre people. They want to encourage single motherhood. And worst of all, they're the party of misandry. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're the party of misandry, man. So it's like, that's the problem I have with the Democratic Party. That's why I can't be indifferent to them, because I would be indifferent to them, but they're actually doing all these things to hurt me and to purposely make more cases of Brian Banks throughout the Americas. What they will do, they will make the kind of laws and structures and policies that incarcerated Brian Banks and that tried to incarcerate Sean Oakman and Rodney Anderson that will be normal. They will normalize the shit at the amendment level. That's how dangerous they are. That's why I don't even call them the Democratic Party. I call them the Rainbow Coalition. Because that's all they are.
If you notice, with the exception of, say, a guy like Bill Cosby, the type of black men that they target is the ones that come from poor backgrounds. They have an agenda of why they're going after these type of men, because once they get these men, believe me, they're going to move to more productive men as well. And that's where black guys need to be smart, and they need to be keep their head on a swivel.
I've always thought that that's how the Atlantic slave trade started, like what you're saying. I've always had this idea. I've never been able to back it up with any facts or anything. This is a theory. Mm-hmm. I've always theorized that what happened in West Africa at the time that the slave trade with the Portuguese started was that the black men that were the free-thinking black men of those cultures, that their voice had got drowned out by simps, manginas, and misandrists of that time by trying to create like a matriarchy. So they had a patriarchy, it collapsed. Mm-hmm. They tried to replace it with a matriarchy, and then all the talented, competent men left and went and started their own tribes in the interior of Africa, and the weakest men and the masculine females were left, and that those were the ones that got enslaved. I don't know why I have this theory, because I've done a lot of reading, and they don't, you know how it is when you try to study that era and shit.
Yeah,
a lot of vague information, but I've just always had this belief that it didn't happen the way that they claim it happened. Like, it don't make a lot of sense to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I've always believed that the matriarchal system that they had going on was the reason, and the women themselves went to those men because those men came with brute force and told them, bitch, you go come or you die kind of thing. And the men were such manginas at that time and weaklings that they got enslaved to. I really believe this shit, bro. But I ain't saying
No. Honestly, I believe too that the black misandry that goes on against black men, I don't believe it started during slavery. I think it started before slavery.
Yes.
And we're just now starting to see the full manifestations of the decades and you could almost say centuries of this black misandry. Because you have to ask yourself, how can a woman have so much hatred for her own race of men? And we're talking collectively, not individual, but collectively, that they're willing to side with the enemy to make sure that you are at the bottom.
They're not just willing to side with the enemy, they're willing to take the gun from the enemy's hand and shoot you in front of the enemy.
Exactly.
This shit is crazy, but you know what? That's why I said that they created what happened in America, and that's why we have to be honest about our history and stop lying to ourselves. Look it, man. Just look it and hear me out. What we call a black American is a social construction, okay?
Exactly. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
And this is where a lot of the Hotep communist Sims just don't get it. You are not a real group, bro. How do I know this? Go read your history on slavery. Do you understand that there's like 10 modern day nations on the West and Central Africa, right? It's about 8 to 10 of them that all the black Americans were taken from, outside of the ones that were already here. You know what I'm saying? Some people make an argument that there were already some black Africans that came up through Latin America and that were here. So we're going to exclude that, but I'm not going to discount that and say, hey, it doesn't. But I'm going to just stick with what we know about the transatlantic slave trade, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They were taken from those specific nations that on the West and the Central Africa, but they were taken from hundreds of tribes. Did you just hear what I just said?
Yeah.
What is modern day is like 10 nations today. But these at that time in the 1400s, 1500s, do you understand it was like hundreds of fucking warring tribes that had actually been warring with each other for thousands of years? Now, just think about what I'm saying, Sigma Jones.
Yeah.
What we call Black American, the seed population that was brought to this Western Hemisphere was taken from hundreds of warring tribes that had evolved different constituencies, different behaviors, different cultures, and were warring with each other when the Portuguese landed and were selling each other to these racist white people. Now, just listen to what I said again. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of tribes spread across potentially 10 nations, and then they brought these people who were enemies, all different ages, all different languages, and just plopped them down in these different nations in the Western Hemisphere. And in our case of America, that seed population was 300,000 to 500,000 brought over here after 1619, even though we know the Spanish brought Africans in the 1500s that were already here. That is a fact, because the Spanish brought blacks here and they escaped from the Spanish and fought the Spanish and went out and created their own communities and intermarried with native tribes. But it ain't the whole native mixing is overrated. They actually created their own tribes. These black Africans that the Spanish brought here had their own tribes that were just strictly black, that had escaped from the Spanish and that had defeated the Spanish. This is a lot of deep history, but dealing with that population that came under the British colonies, it was like 300 to 500,000 of them. But remember, these people that came were taken from hundreds of tribes that were warring. Then when they got here in the American system made them one group, because the American slaveholding class began to breed them. So what we have today, that's 38 million or so, was bred from a population that was a mixture of 500,000 taken directly from Africa, and then another group that was brought by the Spanish 100 years before the British colonies, and then potentially another group that came up through Latin America, if you take all those theories and put them together. So how the fuck can you not understand that you're a social construction? What we call a Black American was literally socially engineered, mentally, physically, and then given a false God. That's what we're dealing with here, Sigma Jones. We're trying to deconstruct this shit and make it simple for these people that you are a socially engineered group. They cut you off completely from everything that you knew tribal, everything you knew land-wise. You were created to benefit and be a laboring class for the ruling white elites all through your history. But in the last 30 years, they have realized they don't even need you for the labor no more.
Yeah.
And Sigma Jones did a good video podcast recently on the mud seal based off David Carroll's video where he talked about that. And one of the things that he and I had discussed in this chat was that he talked about the mud seal theory. But one of the things that I refuted what him and David Carroll said was that mud seal means that you are a necessity to the society. I actually make the case that Black Americans in the aggregate have reached a point lower than the mud seal, what they call untouchables in other cultures, meaning you have no purpose to exist in the society outside of pity and charity. I think it's gotten that bad for the rank and file Black person in America that they don't need your labor anymore because they got a combination of legal immigration, illegal immigration, and the fourth industrial age automation. And if anyone think I'm lying, please put a comment in there, because from what I can see, they've replaced the Black labor force for the most part, and automation is going to fill in for a lot of it. So the mud seal applies more to legal, illegal, and automation than it does to Black Americans now. It used to apply to us up until about the 70s. We were the mud seal of the labor force for the most part. We had a role, but now Black Americans don't have a role as a collective anymore, man.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why, I also replied back to your comment, and I said, the only reason that I feel that the Daggles still have some sort of mud seal to them is because they're still used for sexual gratification. And that's it. If a guy out there just need to get his rocks off, he can go and find one of them, do his thing, and he's gone.
And that's what's happening. Bro, don't sleep, man. Out here in the Midwest, I be seeing a lot of American Black women and mixed chicks with dirty ass white dudes, man.
Yes.
I be seeing that shit, bro. Like, I be seeing them and it be like the dirtiest, sloppiest white boys, man. So they be like tagging these chicks and just like abusing them and using them hoes as like cum rags and then tossing them back to Black Americana. And I see it, and cats is in denial about this shit. But I'm telling you, bro, you can catch it. If you be in the right places, you'll see, and these be like attractive Black women. Yeah. That's what's the shocker. That's why I'm like, shit, that lets you know that a lot of these white boys, we don't like American Black women because they damn should be throwing themselves at the dirtiest low-level white boys. Yep. Oh, they be just throwing themselves at these dudes. And these be women that Black dudes would say is pretty good looking, right? These be women that, these are brothers that would give a lot to get with these kind of, I'm not talking about just these ugly Black chicks. I'm talking about these be attractive Black chicks with a real bottom shelf Brad type dude that would be like what we would call an incel on our side. We call them incels, but to the Black American woman out there, they will still throw it. It's just white. They just see white, white, white. So to me, that's why understanding the history of Black Americans on a deep level and how we were socially engineered, that's why I've been so loud in telling these brothers, you don't have a woman. I'm going to say it again. The American Black man does not have a woman, not within the confines of America, because your woman was taken from you when you became under the authority of this system. So the best that a Black man can do is find a woman, like I keep telling you, that admires you, respects you, she's attractive, cooperative, and feminine. You got to go find those traits in a woman, and then she has to submit to you. But as far as you thinking like, well, this is my woman, no, you don't have no control over them. Even the white man damn don't even got control over the American woman no more.
No.
You sure don't? Because your woman is in complete opposition to you. She has literally laying herself down before her white God saying, please validate me. I don't care if you ghetto gag me. I don't care if you treat me like cum rag. Just please validate me and let me know that I'm attracted. I mean, it's just crazy, dude. And I'm telling you, I see this shit out here, bro. I be seeing these sisters that are decent looking, and they'll be with a sloppy looking white dude, dirty looking white dude, one of them Kid Rock looking type motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what they fuck with.
And out here on the West Coast, man, it is no different. Actually, I would say out here you would probably see a little bit more than you would the Midwest, because
I don't
out
know,
here,
man, because the cities, the Twin Cities is ranked up there right with San Francisco and Denver and Portland, bro. Every year, top 3, top 4. I think it's about the same, man.
Well, it would not surprise me, man. At the end of the day, we're both seeing the same thing, and to me, I just still find it funny how these women or daggles, either way, they're open about it. They're not hiding it. But at the same time, brothers, the average Negro will just he be blind to it. He act like y'all don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, okay, man, if you somehow in the dark corridors of your mind still believe that the black woman is still your woman, by all means, still living that daydream. On the other hand, brothers like King Sigma and I, we see what the game's going on, and we're not falling for it. And a lot of younger brothers too, the millennials and zennials, they're seeing it too, and they're acting accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I just still find it funny when I hear these dudes say our women, and I'm just like, the shit that you saying don't even make sense, because you don't have no authority over these women. You don't have any jurisdiction over these women. You don't have any power over them. You if you got a daughter, you might have some power over her, but you damn sure can't have power over your wife. Because I've told these dudes many times that the wife thing don't even make sense, because the wife in America is married to the state and you. They actually say that in the documentation, that when you take a wife under the current system, you go into a contractual relationship between the state, the woman, and you. That's a fact that can't be disputed. So it's like, where is your woman at, dude? You have a female. I get what, if you say my female counterpart, now that makes logical sense, because you have been designated a female counterpart through the system. They said, this is an American black woman and you're an American black man. That's a social designation. But outside of it, don't mean shit. Legally, and it don't mean shit outside of that. But, I'm glad you joined me, Sigma Jones. Thanks to MOT and Edward Anderson. This one went longer than I usually go. But, since this is the curtain call on Google Hangouts, which I have no clue why they would get rid of an app that's so great. So the easy interface, the great interface, the usage of it is easy.
It's a telltale sign. It's a telltale sign that they're starting to lose money. When you start to do stuff like that, it's a telltale sign that they're almost about ready to go under in some form or fashion. YouTube will become the next MySpace. That you can bet.
I think YouTube will follow. I think Facebook will be first, and then I think that Twitter will be next, and then I think YouTube will follow after that. Because I'm noticing that a lot of you are starting to go over to like BitChute, and other places, Gab, AI, Gab, social. So I'm seeing the fly, and then you got black men going to Black Avengers slowly. They're slowly started trickle over there. So I think that it'll be Facebook will be next, because they got like so much bad publicity. Under 30 is dropping they're deleting their accounts on Facebook under 30. So they don't got much more time, Facebook. And then I think the next one will be Twitter, because of their censorship over there. And then I think YouTube will be the app come after them. So I'd predict that YouTube got about another 2-3 years. And by that time, BitChute and all these other companies will have matched their technology, and they'll have created their own version that don't have censorship, and they will surpass YouTube. But I think that the first one to fall, I would say Facebook in the next 24 months, Twitter not too soon after, and then YouTube around 2023.
Yeah.
But Wacky, I did see that note where they said they're going to replace it with something called Hangout Chat and Hangouts Meets. But I don't know how that's going to work. But, August is my birthday month, so I usually take that month off anyways. So if that's true that they're going to replace it with the Hangouts, Meet, and Chat, I will take the time during August to check in on that stuff and some of the other software that brother's been talking about, like StreamYards, OBS, or whatnot. I'll check all that stuff, but, August is my rest month, so I'm going to just kick back, do some more traveling, visit some family, do a lot of reading, and just chill for this, this last month of summer as well. But we'll see. We'll see what the next stage is starting tomorrow. I'll be listening to some of you other guys' content, but I won't be putting out anything until September again. And I'll have a lot to talk about because that's when Congress comes back. So it's a lot of shit that'll be going on around September. So I'll come back on and fire up some more conversations then. But thanks a lot for coming on, Sigma.
Sir, as always, thanks for having me. Looking forward to next time.
Yeah, see you on Slay. Well, I'm sure that I'll run into you on Slay and Evil and when you put out your content on Black Avenger as well.
Yeah, I'm also going to be taking a small little break because I got a big trip coming up, so I'm focusing on that. But
Nice.
as always, we'll be talking behind the scenes and everything. And man, wherever it is, you just let me know and I'll be there.
I appreciate it, brother. You have a safe trip and have fun, man. Just have fun, man. Whatever trip you just go have fun, man. That's what I want Black men to focus on. Just focus on your health and having fun and living your life in a constructive way. Just do those things and you'll be good, man.
You too, sir. And you have a happy early birthday as well.
All right, bro. Peace. So to the viewers, thanks everyone for coming in. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Salute to Sir Charles, Wacky, Rael, Richard Victor Dixon, Abdullah bin, who else is in here? Zoverture, Trey Waters, Albert Bird, Johnny Mills, Gearzy, Harambe. Who else we got that came through? DK Phantom, G1, and anyone else that I might have missed, man. Salute to all of y'all. And, thanks for the shout outs on the early shout outs for the birthday. And I hope that you guys also, August is like the last month of summer, man. And it's that time for you guys to really enjoy it because it's going to go fast. August always goes fast. So, enjoy this last month while you can. Get out there, one of my things, I like to go down to the river and the lake. And it's kind of cool because one of my gyms that I go to is actually right on the Mississippi River, man. And it's so cool. Like I can go out there, work out, and then after my workout, I could just walk the Mississippi River, man. And it's so beautiful. So, just thanks everyone for your support, man. I've only been doing this for about a month and a half, and I was really starting to like Google Hangouts, man. It's a great app. It allows anyone with no experience in video editing or radio experience to just get on here, speak their opinions with other like-minded people, and connect. And it's just unfortunate they're getting rid of it. But we'll see what this Google Meet and this other app is really about. I don't know why they would have Google Chat and a Meet. I'm not really understanding what the purpose of separating it is because the way that it works right now is it's perfect. So I don't know. I don't know about this Google Meet and this Google Chat, how it's going to work, but I will take August and I'll take a look at it in a couple of weeks and we'll see. But I do look forward to having even more conversations with all of you guys. You guys teach me a lot. So with that, everyone have a good August and I will see you in September. Peace.